Faites l'appel, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le Sénateur Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Ferguson.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lefondre. Madame le Sénateur Valois.
Présente.
Madame le Sénateur Moore. Monsieur le Sénateur Pallet.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelat.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie. Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Madame le Député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Southern. Madame le Député de Grouville.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Tadier.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Masson. Madame le Député Pinel.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Martin.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Madame le Député Dublay. Monsieur le Député Labbé.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Wickenden.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Young.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Morel.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Guida.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Pierre. Monsieur le Député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le Député Lehegara.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Ayer.
Présent.
Madame le Député Pershard.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le Député Alves.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le Député Gardner.
Présente.
Madame le greffier.
Prions Dieu. Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi les gouvernements et les puissances de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton Saint-Nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit, que toute la délibération et accompagnée de ta bénédiction réussissent au bien et au soulagement du peuple qui te plut de commettre à le soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui est aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite en la terre comme au ciel.
Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien. Et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés.
Ne nous induis point en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen. Monsieur le Sénateur Lefondre,
Malade.
vous jurez que Monsieur le Sénateur Lefondre est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Madame le Sénateur Moore, vous jurez que Madame le Sénateur Moore est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Député Southern, Monsieur le député Masson,
Excusez.
Madame le député Doublé,
Present.
Les états sont constitués.
Sir, I have a hospital appointment later this morning, so we'll be out of the chamber for about an hour, sir.
Thank you very much, Conrad. On behalf of members, I'd like to welcome His Excellency, who I believe is joining us virtually this morning. And although members will, I'm sure, know the text, I should inform members that I sent in the usual way a message of congratulations to Her Majesty the Queen on the occasion of her Platinum Jubilee in the following terms. Lieutenant Governor, bailiffs, states and people of Jersey join together to send Your Majesty their most loyal congratulations on the occasion of your Platinum Jubilee and look forward with great anticipation to the events to be held in Jersey in the summer to celebrate this special anniversary to mark 70 years of dedicated service to the people of the Commonwealth. We express our most sincere and devoted affection and pray that Your Majesty will continue to be blessed with good health and happiness in the future. Very well, there is items under B and C, and we come to D, which is notification of lodged propositions. The following propositions have been lodged under Section D. Island Plan 2022-25, approval, P36, 61st Amendment, lodged by Senator Moore. The same 62nd Amendment, lodged by the Deputy of Grouville. The same 63rd Amendment, lodged by Senator Moore. The same 64th Amendment, lodged by Senator Pallett. The same 65th Amendment, lodged by Senator Gorst. The same 66th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Wickenden. The same 67th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Wickenden. The same 68th Amendment, lodged by Senator Pallett. The same 69th Amendment, lodged by the Connétable of St. Peter. The same 70th Amendment, lodged by the Connétable of Grouville. The same 71st Amendment, lodged by the Deputy of St. Martin. The same 72nd Amendment, lodged by the Deputy of St. Martin. Same 73rd Amendment, lodged by the Deputy of St. Martin. The 74th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Labby. Same, the 75th Amendment, lodged by Senator Moore. Same, the 76th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Masson. Same, the 77th Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Infrastructure. The same, the 78th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Aye. Same, the 79th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Gardner. The same, the 80th Amendment, lodged by Deputy Hewlin. The same, the 81st Amendment, lodged by the Environment, Housing and Infrastructure Scrutiny Panel. The same, the 82nd Amendment, lodged by Deputy Labby. The same, the 83rd Amendment, lodged by Deputy Morell. The same, the 84th Amendment, lodged by Senator Moore. The same, the 85th Amendment, lodged by the Connétable of St. Brelade. And the same, the 86th Amendment, also lodged by the Connétable of St. Brelade. The Draft Taxation Enveloped Properties Transaction Jersey Law Amendment, lodged by the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel. The same Second Amendment, lodged by the same panel. The same Third Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Treasury and Resources. The Rent Safe Scheme Amendment, lodged by Deputy Ward. Tenancy Notice Period Amendment, lodged by the Minister for Housing and Communities. The Draft Control of Housing and Work Amendment Law, lodged by the Chief Minister, P13. States-owned bodies accreditation as living wage employers, lodged by Senator Mezek, P14. The Draft Elections Donations to Political Parties Threshold Amount Regulations, P15, lodged by the Privilege and Procedures Committee. Under E, the following has been withdrawn. Draft Taxation Enveloped Property Transactions Jersey Law, P119, the Second Amendment. There is nothing under F and G. Nor under H. Questions have, or answers to written questions have been lodged under I. And we come now to oral questions. And the first question, Deputy Ward will ask of the Minister for Home Affairs.
Thank you, sir. So may I ask the Minister, in light of the recent changes to the Highway Code introducing a hierarchy of road users, will the Minister confirm what steps, if any, have been taken by the States of Jersey Police to update their protocols and procedures for investigating road traffic collisions involving vulnerable road users. Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So, the States of Jersey Police are guided by provisions set out in the Road Traffic Jersey Law 1956 when responding to and dealing with road traffic collisions of any nature, including those who are deemed the most vulnerable. This requires that the police respond to road traffic accidents in the following circumstances: all accidents involving personal injury, where the requirement under Article 52 of law for drivers to stop and exchange information is not met, where it appears that the defect in the vehicle involved may have been a contributory factor, where there are grounds to suspect that the defect in the road was a contributory factor, and where an animal as defined in the Road Traffic Jersey Law 1956 is killed or injured. The recent amendments to the Highway Code have not necessitated a change to this.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, thank you, sir. So can I ask, can the Minister give an indication of how many accidents where vulnerable road users are involved on average happen each year, and subsequently how many prosecutions have been undertaken, for example, in the last 4 years?
No, sir, I apologize. I don't have that information at hand, but I will, of course, provide it to the deputy. I think there's a small misunderstanding in that the Highway Code is actually guidance. It is not law. So it should be treated as such. And the biggest influence it's going to have is when a case is brought to court. So the police will investigate and will gather all evidence available. But the judgment in the magistrate's court might be different now that the guidance has changed.
Question going to Alison Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister confirm that the police on the beat, so to speak, who are dealing with accidents when they do from time to time arise, have received guidelines on how to deal with the new Highway Code regulations? Thank you, sir.
So, of course, the police are extremely sensitive to any change in legislation or guidance, and they would have been aware of the changes in this law way longer than we have. So it is something that, of course, they will integrate completely. Again, it will probably not change the way that they report on accidents, but it will certainly change the way that people are prosecuted in court.
Supplemental, Connaughton? Deputy Gardner? Deputy Gardner?
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister clarify if a law is going to the change as guidance changed? So is it, and are any plans in place to change the law, to update the law according to the new guidance?
So following proposition made in this very assembly, the road traffic law is under review, as is the whole notion of road safety in Jersey. So the Minister for Infrastructure is heavily at work now, working both on the Highway Code, which has to mirror the UK one, but also on our local law to make sure that it is efficient and fit for its purpose.
Supplemental, yes.
Would the Minister advise if he is aware about the timeline for launching new law?
I understand from the Infrastructure Ministry that this is something that will probably happen during 2022.
Senator Ballard?
Well, thank you, sir. I wonder if the Minister could advise whether, in regards to considering cases, whether Centeneers, the Honourable Police and Centeneers have been given any updated advice as to what should be considered when prosecuting.
Minister?
Like the State of Jersey Police, the Honorary Police is kept very aware of which laws apply or not, and certainly what is in the Highway Code, so I'm pretty certain that they're fully aware of the changes. Again, I don't think this will make much of a difference in the way that accidents are investigated, and any serious accident will be investigated by the State of Jersey Police. They have a CIS unit which actually investigates any accident where there was an injury. Once in court, it will be up to the magistrate to decide whether there was dangerous or careless driving, and the penalties are very, very different if that is found to be the case.
Well, supplemental, Senator?
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary question, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, will there be any effect on the level or depth of investigation of a collision involving a vulnerable user, given the change in hierarchy, i.e. to the method of investigation? And is this being looked at by the police? Because it could actually be significant in terms of prosecution later on if there's no change in investigation, but there may be a change in the outcome. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I think, again, there's a small misunderstanding. This has been made extremely public because of the change in the highway code in the UK and here. But the hierarchy of users, the hierarchy of road users has always existed, and it is something that has always been taken into consideration. And finally, the investigation of any collision is extremely thorough, extremely scientific and methodical, and I don't think that it can be improved. Thank you, sir.
Very much indeed. We come to question 2 that Senator Pallett will ask for the Minister for Health and Social Services. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister provide details to the Assembly of when the last full independent inspection of services provided at all medical facilities within the Minister's portfolio took place, and what independent inspections, if any, have taken place within Health and Community Services since May 2018?
Minister.
So independent inspections of services are important to provide assurance about the quality, safety and effectiveness of health and social care services in all modern healthcare systems. Independent inspections of health and community services since May 2018 include inspections by the Jersey Care Commission of over 20 care homes and daycare centres run by HCS, health and safety inspections of hospital buildings, pathology and radiology regulatory inspections, independent reviews relating to theatres, mental health, maternity, quality, safety and governance, and the Jersey Nursing Assessment and Accreditation System covering all aspects of patient care, including safeguarding patients, patient and environmental safety, medicines management and infection control. But with regard to a full inspection of all medical services at any one time, a broad-ranging inspection of this nature has not been undertaken to date. The Regulation of Care Jersey Law 2014 does not currently provide for full independent inspection of medical or hospital facilities by the Jersey Care Commission, although HCS's care homes and daycare centres are regulated and inspected. The states would need to pass regulations under the 2014 law before this could happen. That's not yet happened because plans agreed in 2019 prioritise independent inspection of both children's and adult social work and mental health services by the Jersey Care Commission. However, I'm currently consulting the Council of Ministers and the Commission about an alternative approach, which would include bringing forward the necessary regulation to allow for independent regulation by the Commission under the Regulation of Care Law ahead of schedule in 2024, and also as an interim measure in partnership with the Commission undertaking an independent survey during the course of this year to allow us to better understand our patients' experience of our services. Thank you, sir.
Connie Harbison, John.
Thank you, sir.
May I have a supplementary?
I beg your pardon, Senator. Yes, you would normally get a supplementary straight after. That's quite true. Supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Thank you, sir. As much as the survey may be of interest to the Minister, I think what is of interest to the public is ensuring that health and community services provided within the hospital are meeting current day standards. As much as the Minister said that he will be bringing forward regulations, he's had since 2018 to do this. Will he make this his #1 priority to ensure that all facilities, especially the General Hospital, have a full inspection as a matter of urgency?
Minister.
So I will make it a priority. As I've said, I'm bringing forward the means to have the inspection, which is to create the necessary regulation to allow for that independent regulation. It involves resourcing and preparing the Commission, which of course is not in my gift, and also preparing HCS to meet that sort of inspection. This will be discussed with Council of Ministers, and I undertake to bring that discussion to the Council rapidly. So,
Minister, Conor Iverson John.
So would the Minister agree with me that the law mentioned doesn't prohibit an inspection, but doesn't make it mandatory currently?
yes, that's correct. But at the moment, the Care Commission is engaged, and the states will shortly be receiving, I think, for lodging its next tranche of work. And what we are saying is that the tranche of work that follows will be subject to agreement with the Commission and Council of Ministers at that piece of work which Senator Nakonataba was seeking.
So given that it doesn't prohibit an inspection, would the Minister agree with me that at a time of such concern around health and HCS, that an independent inspection would be a positive step? Thank you, sir.
Inspections are always positive and need to be taken in all modern healthcare systems, and I've outlined the inspections that we do undertake on a regular basis by way of external review and internal assurance systems, and the regulatory, for example, blood and pathology and all sorts of services are regulated at the moment. So, so this, as I've said, is going to be brought forward as rapidly as we can. It requires cooperation of many bodies, the Care Commission, the Treasury, the Council of Ministers, and all that will be worked on.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. What provision has the Minister laid down to enable the inspection of domiciliary care by the Care Commission? And if none, why not?
So I feel that question is one for the Minister for the Environment, who is the Minister responsible for regulatory functions. Domiciliary care services are presently regulated by the Commission.
Supplemental, Deputy Southern.
Does that include the application of the Ethical Care Charter to domiciliary care under the powers that the Care Commission has?
So that I can't speak for the Jersey Care Commission. They would have their parameters as to how they inspect domiciliary care.
And Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. In addition to the possibility of an independent inspection, does the Minister see value in receiving direct staff feedback to find out what problems may exist on the ground and how they may be ameliorated? And if so, can he update the Assembly on what mechanisms currently exist and what progress has been made because of such staff feedback?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we value staff feedback, and changes that have taken place within HCS by organising it into care groups have meant that staff have a structure in which they can feed their concerns and wishes into their care group, which is then taken forward through the structure and implemented. We have the usual procedures that apply in all states of Jersey employment scenarios, that staff can lodge a complaint, staff can whistleblow, staff can report matters of concern to them. And also I know staff are regularly talking to executives, and they also approach me on occasions. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Tadier.
Yes, thank you, sir. Whether as part of any future inquiry or just general normal work streams, will the Minister undertake to find new ways to engage with staff who may not currently engage or may never have been asked for an opinion about their experiences in the workplace so that improvements can be made throughout the whole system?
So we are always seeking out ways to communicate with staff, and I would willingly, if there's additional ideas that the Deputy has, I'd be very willing to receive them. We are very concerned about our staff's well-being at the moment after the 2 years they've been through, and it has been very tiring, very taxing for them. We have a significant well-being program in place, which would include allowing them to voice their concerns and provide us with feedback. So.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I'm welcoming Minister's recognition of the urgency to bring it forward independent inspection of the hospital. I would like to check with the Minister if it would include all satellite services for the General Hospital and not just General Hospital itself.
So the care homes that HCS runs are presently regulated, and the daycare centres. So I think this would include all medical services. Obviously, this has to be worked through with the Care Commission, but I can't imagine why any would be left out.
Supplemental question,
Yes,
Deputy?
thank you, sir. So there are several services that are not located within the General Hospital, if it's the dental or if it's some services at Overdale and other places. Would they be included in the review as well?
Oh yes, I don't imagine it would be geographically based, that it would just be in the Gloucester Street premises. It would be all the medical services provided by HCS.
Very well. Final supplementary, Senator Panic. Oh, I beg your pardon, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. How does the Minister reconcile the reports of bullying and people being afraid to speak out with his wonderful idea about how everybody talks to everybody and everybody, you know, sort of can freely discuss matters of concern?
I'm afraid, Senator, that doesn't relate to inspections, independent inspections of the facilities for health and community services, and I can't allow that as a valid supplemental question. Do you have another supplemental question?
Will the visits and examine the various examination of what is going on in within the department include proper, fair communication with the staff as to their areas of concern?
That is a valid question, I think, Minister.
Certainly, that would be important, and I would want that to happen. I'm sure the Care Commission would want that to happen, and I don't know exactly how these things work, but I imagine that would be a fundamental part of the terms of reference, call it what you will, of an inspection.
Supplementary question, Senator?
Well, yes, I don't quite understand. Has the Minister not gone into more details about this? Given the concerns that are being voiced about people, about matters of concern raised by staff being ignored or being suppressed.
So there's no need for staff to feel annoyed, ignored or suppressed. We want to hear their views. We are open, and I feel confident that an inspection would rely very heavily on staff views and want to hear them. Thank you, sir.
Right, I have Deputy Ward, then final supplementary, Deputy Senator Pallett. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, any inspection, sir, should include the role of management in the hospital in the provision of services. Can the Minister assure us that that would include their response to things such as the HR Lounge bullying report, which was integral in looking at the way staff were treated and therefore, in the end, the delivery of services?
Well, it may well do, sir. I don't think we can get ahead of ourselves and start saying exactly what any inspection would cover, whether. So I think that's a matter to be agreed with the Jersey Care Commission. It would be unusual for a body being inspected to set the parameters of what can and cannot be inspected. So I don't feel I can say yes or no to that.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Yes, so would the Minister, can I ask the Minister, would he be confident that if that was the case and we addressed those issues, that management would have responded to them appropriately? As Minister, is he confident that those issues that were highlighted so significantly have been addressed?
Well, I'm confident, sir, that they are being addressed, if I can put it that way, because it requires culture change. And that is what I've been trying to achieve throughout my term with the assistance and leadership of the management team. Now including so many people who have clinical experience and are still working in clinical areas. So it's not a quick fix. It's about turning around a large ship and making that cultural change, which is happening, sir.
Final supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased the Minister's finally talking about what I consider to be a long overdue full inspection of medical services, including those in the hospital. Will the Minister commit to providing myself and all Assembly members a timeline for delivering a full inspection of hospital services and those under his remit by the next state sitting, so that we can fully appreciate or fully understand how he's going to deliver that full inspection?
I will circulate states members, and as far as I can at this stage, I will try and set that out. And if the Senator and members would understand that this still requires discussions with the Care Commission and Council of Ministers, and of course we must seek funding. Both the Commission would need funding and HCS need funding for preparation for the inspection. But as far as possible, I will circulate states members with a full timetable, sir.
Come to question 3 that Deputy Southern will ask of the Minister for Social Security. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain why special payments for large one-off items, such as white goods, under the Income Support Scheme, which used to be paid for as grants, are now paid as loans, requiring repayment by income support recipients? And how do special payments operate in respect of medical expenses, particularly dental costs?
Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. And the Deputy is quite right. The scheme went from grants to loans, but it went from grants to loans in October 2015, and it was the state's decision. On the medical, I'm not quite sure what the medical expenses, the Deputy knows we now have the Health Access Scheme, which is free for children up to 17 and £12 for all other people on income support. That's just been renewed, sir, and will run through to March 23. On dental, it's still grants of up to £500 available towards essential dental costs, but pensioners and people with disabilities are exempt from that limit. And as of December, sir, I've written to all children age 11 to 17, as we're running a scheme to get them dental fit. They can go to any dentist on the island, and the invoice will come to us and we pay £350. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental questions, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister care to answer the question and state whether these payments for white goods, whether that decision to move from grants to loans has been reviewed by herself, especially in the light of the fact that these applications used to be around 450 a year and are now languishing around 170, 200 a year. So there's been a reduction in the uptake of these payments.
Sorry, sir, no, I've not had anybody ask me to review this. As I say, it was a vote in 2015. And I do remember that some of the white goods, if you had a family of 4, were quite basic. You didn't have a fridge freezer, you had a fridge with a a small freezer. And with everyone else out there doing 1 or 2 year interest-free loans, people probably voting with their feet. But the vote was taken, as I say, sir, in March. Apparently I voted against, and the deputy wasn't here for the vote. Thank you.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. And since the Minister has just indicated that she quite rightfully took a stand against this when it was first introduced, would she be able to give an indication of what impact this has had in the 6 or so years that it's been in place in terms of levels of poverty for income support claimants, bearing in mind that the original decision on this was made before the last income distribution survey was published?
The grants and the loans are sort of running about the same as they was. As I say, the goods were very basic. Some of them weren't suitable for families. Adult single men were only offered a single bed. That might have been free or it might have been paid. Nobody's come to me, and I'm not sure it is causing any poverty, as I say. It's been running for 7 years, and nobody, even before I was minister, it was another minister obviously brought it in. And as I say, there's things that have been improved for income support families. Components go up every year. And as I say, we've now got the cheaper doctors. We're trying to do as much as we can with dentists. So I don't exactly know if it's caused any poverty, but it's been running for so long. I think people now accept that it's either a loan or they'll go to somewhere else and get what they want over a 2-year free period.
Supplemental, Senator?
So it would, of course, logically follow that it would have an impact on increasing rates of poverty, because what was otherwise provided as a necessary item at no cost to the claimant now does come as at a cost to them by having to be paid through their income support. So would the Minister endeavour to actually ask some of her officers to look at the impact this would have had on claimants' abilities to make ends meet through their incomes, whether that's entirely through income support or with other incomes attached to that as well, and determine whether that policy can be held accountable for increasing rates of poverty for those people?
Well, I could attempt to do that, sir. I mean, not everybody needs a new white good, etc. when they move in. Some people have their families purchase them, and as I say, some people want the ones that they want that will last a lot longer than the ones that were going to be provided. But I will ask officers to see if there's any way that what the deputy, the senator claims is causing poverty. But as I say, it's been in now for over 7 years, and I'd be very surprised. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, the payments for expenses of dental costs and optical costs, for example, are capped at £500 per year per household, after which a loan is offered. The £350 that was mentioned for dental care, is that included in that £500? And given the increasing expense of dental care, is there any plan to review this level, particularly, just that, sir. Thank you.
Sorry, sir, the £500 is for essential dental work, and that is a grant. And if the person needs more work over a 2-year period, we will help, but that will be a loan. The £350 is for a dental fit scheme to get young adults from 11 to 17 fit. That's £300. We've written to every family. I'm compiling a letter with the Children's Commissioner's Office to now send out to children, so they can pick a dentist. They'll go, the bill comes to the department, and the pensioners, they have dental £40 towards a checkup each year, and every 2 years up to £700 towards dental treatment or dentures. It's slightly all different things for different people. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Does that payment, I've slightly changed my question, does that payment include work, for example, on children for braces, which I know from my own experience can be extraordinarily expensive? And is it a question that, because I don't think that would cover the cost of braces for a child, so is it a question of either pay the expensive dental care on top of that £350 or wait, which is a significantly long time for hospital care, to take that on?
Yes, and I've asked that, sir. The 350 is because of COVID and maybe the hospital treatment, they're now past the age where they could have got the free treatment, is purely to make their teeth dental fit. It's a checkup if they need fillings, etc. If it's more than that, we're going to be very sympathetic. We don't want any child to have really bad teeth. So this is the start, but as far as I know, no, it doesn't cover braces. Thank you.
Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that the income support system provides more than subsistence level to the people it serves, and that many people, because of mistakes in the past, which has resulted in overpayments which are being clawed back, cannot afford to repay the loans? And what does she do in those circumstances? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Deputy, is this specifically limited to the loans relating to white goods and medical matters?
Yeah, yes, sir, it is. Because people...
Yes.
Income
okay, then. I'm sorry. Thank you. That's fine. Yes, Minister.
Well, the Deputy asked a muddled question there. So people who are paying back for white goods, they will be paying back out of some of their income support. Yeah, that's what they do.
Supplementary, sir, because
yes, sir.
Obviously,
yes,
haven't answered the question. Maybe I didn't say it clearly enough. Income support basically provides a subsistence level of support. A number of people, many people, in fact, through mistakes of the department or mistakes on their part, have been overpaid and are being forced to repay the money. My question is, what about those people? If they can't afford, basically, they're just covering the repayments and they've got no surplus money. Are they getting grants, or are they being forced to take out a loan or to do without the white goods? Thank you, sir.
Well, I haven't looked into every case, but if it's a few £1,000s overpayment, I would probably, maybe that they've bought the good and then they're paying the money back. This is not to do with the original question. The Deputy is asking me again, if people get overpayments, do I think they should pay the taxpayers' money back? And it's my stance that I think they should.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir, and apologies to the Minister if this question was answered earlier and her responses, I would have missed it. But what is the interest rate that's charged on these loans for white goods? Are they interest-free, or is there an interest rate?
No, they're interest-free.
Thank you.
Supplemental?
Yes, please. And what is the normal time frame for repayment?
Well, again, that's worked out. If it's a small fridge, say you could get one down, mustn't product advertise, probably the JEC over a year, or all the electricals over a year, some 2 years. Again, that would be, if we know someone is really struggling, we can extend it. It's interest free, and that's what we will do. We will come to an arrangement with that person and the family and take all those circumstances, because we do have the office to do that. Not like the JEC. If you bought there, it literally would be a 12 months or 18 months interest free.
Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister denying that the take-up rate for these white goods has been reduced because the loans have been introduced? And could she give a figure for repayments of these white goods loans? For example, in one case I've heard from a person requiring dental work was asked to pay £22.50 from their £150 a week to live off all in. That was asked to pay £22.50 back as their loan.
Well, the grants to loans have stayed about steady over 30% over the last 5 years. I've said that the first £500 is a grant. Pensioners, it's much more. It's £700 every other year, with a £40 towards a checkup on year one. I don't know the Deputy's case. Maybe he needs to contact us, because if it's over that amount of money, and if it's really needed, I know that, I've taken people to income support and we've come to an arrangement. What income support don't like you to do is just go out and have the dentist work done and say, here's the money. They like to know where you're going, what it's going to look like, and then they'll come to arrangement. But the first £500 is a grant. Thank you, sir.
Very well, we come to question 4. The Deputy Higgins will ask the Minister for External Relations. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Rather than being reactive to United Kingdom measures to impose sanctions on Russia, in particular the Russian president and the Russian oligarchs who support him, has the Minister considered taking a proactive approach? And if so, will he undertake to introduce a Jersey equivalent of the Magnitsky Act? And if not, why not?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Jersey continues to take a proactive approach to the fast and effective implementation of international sanctions, and one that properly reflects our constitutional position. We enjoy an excellent record of swiftly implementing all UN and UK sanctions against countries, regimes, or individuals violating international law. The Deputy will, of course, recall that in 2020 I made an order under the Sanctions and Asset Freezing Jersey Law 2019 that implemented the UK Global Human Rights Sanctions Regulations. These regulations are the UK equivalent of the Magnitsky Act and enable the UK to freeze the assets of individuals and entities linked to gross human rights violations. Any persons designated by the UK for an asset freeze under these regulations are automatically and immediately subject to an asset freeze in Jersey.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, sir. Why is it that we have to wait for the UK or other states to name people and bring these things in? We constantly talk about Jersey having a place in the world and is able to deal with money laundering, and we have a fantastically regulated financial services industry. And yet, why don't we have the powers ourselves directly to take action against Russian money, which we know is in the island, and we've allowed Russian oligarchs to have residential status in the island? Why don't we have the powers ourselves and take unilateral action if we feel it's necessary? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So the Deputy will know from reading the legislation that we are able, in theory, to make our own sanctions. The issue is, of course, the constitutional position, and sanctions cross all of the boundaries: financial services, fighting financial crimes, and, of course, foreign policy. Nor actually, sir, do we have the intelligence information here in Jersey which lead to the development and decisions about making international sanctions, which the UK have and the UN do. Much better for us, sir, to follow the process that we do, which is to work in lockstep with the UK and the UN to introduce sanctions immediately that others with that capability introduce them, and that's what we do.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. The Minister mentioned the constitutional position and a lack of intelligence information as reasons why we wouldn't take a proactive approach. Is the possibility of retribution, possibly through cyber attacks, that sort of thing, also a reason as to why the Minister feels a proactive approach would perhaps not be appropriate for Jersey?
No, it isn't, sir. We must take, and we can and do take, the decisions appropriately straight away. So it may not surprise members to hear, sir, that rather than what the Deputy Higgins was suggesting, my officials are in conversation right now and have been with UK officials, so that we are absolutely ready at the time that there is sufficient and appropriate information to make decisions which will stand up not only in the United Kingdom but here in the Royal Court. We will make them.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. In his answer to me and to myself and the original questioner, the Minister mentions UK officials. He's also mentioned the UN. How about the European Union? If the European Union were to levy sanctions against Russia, would Jersey follow those, sir?
It would be. So theoretically, the law would allow us to do so, as the Deputy knows. For when we were developing this law, he was the chair of the then scrutiny panel, so he knows that. However, from a policy perspective, it is much more straightforward because the UK is responsible as a matter of international law for our foreign relations to follow the UK's leading. and the UN's leading than it is from the EU. But in theory, we could do.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. This minister will recall when he was chief minister a controversial decision being made to allow a Russian oligarch to relocate to Jersey through the 21E scheme, which quite reasonably would have been thought to have enabled more Russian money to be going through Jersey. Could the minister assure us that lessons have been learnt in the years since then, and such decisions would unlikely be taken like that previous one now?
Well, this is not a question about sanctions, is it?
It's about action that would preempt specific sanctions, I think.
I think that does stretch it a little bit too far. The question is directed to sanctions, and I think that's not a question that I can permit, I'm afraid. Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you. Then I'll try another approach. Does the minister consider that his lack of intelligence would indicate that companies in Jersey do not actually know their customers?
So I'm afraid that once again the deputy shows his, I'm not sure how to phrase this in a parliamentary manner, sir.
Well, then
Intelligence
perhaps
coming,
don't say it at all then.
well, I need to respond, sir, because the inference is incorrect. So the information that comes to an intelligence agency is completely different from the information that the international standard setters require financial services firms to gather in relation to understanding the customer that they are taking on and the business that they are doing. The deputy will know, sir, hopefully from reading the national risk assessment, that Russia is classified as higher risk, and politically exposed persons resident in Russia or elsewhere of Russian nationality are also classed as higher risk, and therefore such business is subject to enhanced checks to ensure that the money is from legitimate sources. That's absolutely right and proper. That's completely different from intelligence service gathered information, as the deputy well knows, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy. Very much. I have Deputy Tadier, then the Connétable Brillard, then final supplementary. Deputy Tadier.
Thanks, sir. I suppose the question which may be in order, sir, is to ask if sufficient checks are done at the point of KYC when deciding or not whether to take Russian money or a Russian client, or indeed grant 21E status to a Russian oligarch. If sufficient checks and balances are done at that stage, should it not be necessary then to use sanctions against these clients and against this money, which should necessarily be legitimate?
You can answer that. I think it does relate to whether prior information may or may not remove the need to issue sanctions.
So I think you're being very generous about whether that is really a sanctions-related question, but I shall endeavour to answer it nonetheless. So situations change, people do things which they might not have done when they've been taken on in Jersey or in any country in relation to businesses or individuals. What is important is that whilst there is a higher and enhanced level of due diligence for residents and pets from Russia, and that's absolutely right and proper, it is equally right and proper that they are continued to be put under review and supervision by the regulator, and the international community continues to consider actions that they might take. And we all recognise that the actions that might be taken in regard to sanctions are a result of recent actions on the Ukrainian border. We couldn't take the action saying that Russia might send troops to the Ukrainian border in advance of them having done so, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Tadier?
I don't need a supplemental, thank you.
Thank you, Connétable Brillard.
Thank you. So would the minister, in his deliberations on this matter, confirm to members whether he's read Bill Browder's book, Red Notice?
I have no means of judging whether that relates to sanctions, I'm afraid.
Well, so of course that is the gentleman that proposed the Magnitsky Act and supported the United Kingdom Act, and of course supported the order that I made in 2020, sir. So it's irrelevant whether I've read his book or not. We have taken actions based on the underlying principles which he supports.
Supplemental, Conotar?
Simply that I recommend that he does, sir.
Take that as a call for action, which is just about within standing orders. Final supplementary, Deputy Higgins.
Yes, thank you, sir. The Minister in his answer said that the regulator keeps all the sort of like KYC information that is required when these companies and people come into the island. And could he give an example of the reviews that have been done? And can he tell me how he knows what assets are held by Russian nationals in the island? Are they monitoring it on a regular basis? How do they know what they do have, and how can they implement sanctions as quickly if they have no knowledge? Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, Deputy, that's well away from the introducing of an equivalent of a Magnitsky Act, or indeed the imposition of sanctions in any event. It's to do with what KYC resolves in a case, and I'm afraid I can't allow that.
In that case, I rephrase the question and say...
Well, I'll give you one chance to rephrase the question, Deputy, yes.
Okay. The Minister says we have the powers to impose the sanctions. I'd like to know what knowledge he has of the assets of Russian nationals in the island, including property. And if we don't have a property register, how do we know what they have, and how quickly can he impose sanctions if necessary?
Well, two questions. How do you know what Russians have, and how quickly can you impose sanctions? It sounds to me.
So in light of your earlier ruling, I don't think the first question is within standing orders. The second question obviously is, because he's asking about sanctions, sir. Straight away, sir, we issue the sanction. I sign the sanction order, and that is straight away published, and straight away firms are required to comply with that sanction, and the regulator is required to regulate in line with that sanction. And so any assets that need to be frozen are frozen, sir.
With respect, the first...
I'm sorry, I've got Deputy Sutherland put his light on, but not indicated anything in the chat. But Deputy, what is it a point of order?
I think it is a point of order, sir. It's for you to decide what's within standing orders, and not the Minister.
It is entirely for me to decide, and I think the Minister accepts, having done so in the past and answered questions which he has felt I've been too generous about, but it's entirely for the Chair. I took that in the spirit of generosity as a rather unfortunate turn of phrase, but not actually a challenge to the authority of the Chair. But you're quite right, Deputy, of course it is entirely for me to make that decision.
But effectively he has avoided the question.
Well, I didn't actually make a ruling on it. But the ruling, so he has answered the question the way he wants it. If I called upon to make a ruling on it, and if I had been afforded the opportunity to do so, I would have agreed with the Minister in this respect, that it was outside the range of information.
So can I just question that? Because
no, I'm sorry. Is this a point you want to make on a point of order?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The point that was being asked of the Minister, and he hasn't answered, is does he have knowledge of what assets Russian nationals have in the island, so that when he brings in sanctions, he can bring them in quickly and effectively, or does he have to search for that information? Thank you, sir.
Well, that's, I'm afraid, past your final supplementary. That's an entirely different way of asking a question. That question may well have been in order, but I'm afraid it's too late. We come to question 5. The Conotable St Martin will ask the Minister for Home Affairs. Conotable.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister outline the recruitment strategy for the Task Force on Women's Safety, including its composition, and whether anyone employed by the State's Employment Board or an active or former member of the State's Assembly will be a member, and if so, who?
So I think this is a rather good question. When I discussed with the Constable about her amendment to the government plan, it did feel that she wanted as wide as possible response, as holistic as possible response as could be achieved. So I made a point to ensure that whoever we put in the task force, again, was picked up from as ranging sources as possible. This is a non-exclusive list, but we do intend to include the States of Jersey Police, Majesty's Prison at Lamoille, the Probation and Aftercare Service, Social Care Services, the Jersey Domestic Abuse Service, the Jersey Sexual Assault Referral Center, our Independent Sexual Violence Advisors, Victims First Jersey, and of course all this will be led by the Strategic Policy Performance and Population Office, which sits above the government and is very, very well placed to avoid silos. We will also invite slightly outside of the government schools to participate, and charities and other non-governmental organizations like the Women's Refuge and Jersey Actions Against Rape, if they want to participate. Of course, we will also want representatives of the Assembly to be in the task force, and I will take advantage of this opportunity to invite the Constable to join us if you wish so.
So, yes, supplemental question, Concha?
Thank you. I thank the Minister for his very thorough answer, and I'd just like to know, does the Minister intend to publish these details and the task force's terms of reference and its scope on the gov.je website?
Yes, absolutely. We hope to have a head for the task force before the end of the month, and we actually hoped to have our first meeting before the end of the month as well. So this is being done urgently.
Deputy Doublé?
Thank you, sir. And I wanted to ask the Minister about the task force when it's set up. What will be the first items on the agenda of the task force? And as part of that first meeting, would the Minister agree to discuss with the task force about the consultation into this area? And the Minister will recall that I questioned him as a supplementary to Constable Shentonstone's question, and he committed to carrying out a survey, which he has since said will just be a consultation in a scrutiny hearing. Would the Minister agree to check? Yes, I'm coming to the questions there. Would the Minister agree to just check this, his thinking on this?
When I interject, members stop speaking, please. They don't say, yes, I'm just about to finish or anything, because you prejudged what I was going to ask, which is, how does this relate to the recruitment strategy? You seem to be talking about the contents of what the first meeting is going to be, and not the recruitment strategy, which is what the main question is about. And I was asking, does this relate to the recruitment strategy?
Okay, so what I'm asking is, once those individuals are recruited, will the Minister ask those individuals at the first meeting about his decision over a survey versus a consultation as their first piece of work?
I'm afraid technically that simply does not amount to the recruitment strategy. It's what takes place after the recruitment has taken place. And I'm afraid that's outside the parameters of the question. I'm sorry, I can't allow that. Very well, we come to question 6 that Senator Mezek will ask for the Minister for Children and Education. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Given the current plans to develop around 1,000 homes in the southwest of town and a further 1,000 homes in the vicinity of the Millennium Town Park, what plans, if any, does the Minister have to ensure there are adequate school places for the children who will live there, including the provision of safe walking travel routes to their schools?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Senator for his question. Sir, through the Town Schools Estate Review, I'm planning to ensure there are adequate schools, places, and this work includes analysis of walking routes and distance, as well as demographic projections based on large developments. Officers are currently working up the latest options following feedback from last week, and I expect these to go to the Regeneration Steering Group for review.
Supplemental, Senator?
Yes, please, sir. I mean, is it not the case that it's very inconvenient to not have this information available to us in advance of the Island Plan debate and in advance of the deadlines for
amendments to the island plan? And what assurance can he give us that when these proposals are revealed, that we can have confidence that they will actually meet the aspirations of the people who live in these communities, and we're not simply going to see more and more children put in homes in this area where they don't have easy access to their schools?
So, along these lines of working, we need to make sure that we involve stakeholders so that we're not surprising anyone with these kind of plans coming out. We are, I know the Senator says it's unfortunate for the Island Plan Review, but there are amendments in there. I have been speaking to the Environment Minister. We have plans that will meet, hopefully, the demographics, make sure that we've got walking distances. I wish I could have done all of this a lot quicker, sir, but making evidence-based decisions on the best site for schools that will last decades is not something we want to rush in any way. We've been looking at a range of sites for new builds, extensions, suitability of 2 or 3 form entry, demographic projections and walking distance, and identification of stakeholders so we can engage with them. It's a complex piece of work, sir, and I'm determined to get it right. And if it takes a little more time, I'd rather it takes more time and get it right than it's rushed and it's wrong, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, when will the school sites review be available, and has it addressed the development of the waterfront within it? Thank you, sir.
So I have been through many iterations of review. I wanted to get it to the Regeneration Steering Group, but there were other people that wanted to get involved in talking about some and looking at different sites before that happened. I'm hoping now that we've got the final draft so it can go to the Regeneration Steering Group. And yes, it takes into consideration the demographics of the waterfront, which I think contains well, out of the 1,000, there's 531 one-bedrooms, 374 two-bedroom properties, and 195 three in the outlining application. So, total of 569 possible sites with that could have children in there for being over 1 bedroom. So, it is in consideration based on the information we have.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Certainly. So I'm wondering if, before I ask that, I could just ask for the part of the original question of when to be answered. It was very specific, a time frame. I assumed that inferred a time frame. So.
Well, you're asking effectively for a ruling as to whether that part of the question was answered.
Yes.
No, I think it would be possible to answer that question with greater clarity on that particular aspect, Minister.
So yes, thank you, sir. So the next step, now that the plans have been reviewed and are being worked up now, is to go to the Regeneration Steering Group. I've asked for it to be at the next Regeneration Steering Group, which I believe is next week. Once that's been through there, and if it's approved, then it will be made public. That's about the best timeline I can get. I do not control the Regeneration Steering Group or what's on its agenda. I can only request that it's put forward, sir.
And did you have a supplemental question?
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, does the Minister believe there may be a risk that the Bridging Island plan, because we're in the middle of that and all the amendments have gone through, could be contradictory, or one might say incongruent with what comes out of the school sites review, given that the two have not been brought together? Thank you, sir.
No, sir, I don't think there's a risk, because we're looking at building within the built-up area and in town, because that's where the best sites for the demographics and walking, etc. is. So I'm not worried that the Bridging Island plan would in any way stop any of the work that's being undertaken.
Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Following up on the idea of timescales, can the Minister tell me whether he will be bringing the results of all this research to the states for debate in the states, bearing in mind the limited time that is available before the next election? Will the states have the opportunity to debate what his proposals will be before the election? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I don't work on election cycles. I work on trying to get best outcomes for the island. Any work I've done since I've been Education and Children's Minister has been about what's the long-term benefits for the island. So I can say that if I do get these plans together, I'll bring them to the States for a debate. If they're not in a place ready for that, it will be up to the next minister, because this is about getting it right for the children of the island, not about an election.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, Sir Deputy.
Do I take it then that the minister is kicking this down the road because he will not make a decision on it and doesn't want to be held accountable for it? Is that not the case, Minister?
Sir, I believe I said nothing of the sort there. I said that I'm looking to make sure that we have best outcomes. If it happens that we can get this before the Assembly before the elections, I will. If not, it's about what's good for the island. It's not about what's kicking down the road.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. The minister indicated about built-up areas. As a deputy of the south of St. Helier, did he include in the 500 children number of waterfront development children who would be in Horizon, currently in Castle Quay, at South Hill, and the Limehouse development? What's the total number of the south of St. Helier new build expected?
Sir, my officers in SIPES are pretty well versed in planning and projecting for each year of the education cycle, and they have been looking along with Property Holdings at all developments to make sure that we get it. I don't know what the figures are off the top of my head, sir, but I can guarantee the deputy that the officers at SIPES are fully aware, along with Jersey Property Holdings, when planning this, about the number of possible children that would live in the area based on projections we've used for years, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, as Minister indicated his previous answer that he's working with the Minister of Environment for around the Bridging Island plan, would we see any amendments related to the education estate in the Bridging Island plan?
Sir, I've not lodged any amendments in the Bridging Island plan, and the date and timeline for lodging amendments is over now, so I can clearly say to the deputy that no, there will be no amendments in the Bridging Island plan from my department for education facilities.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. And as a fellow representative of St. Helier, I'm particularly concerned to know whether the sites under consideration are expansions of current schools or are they new builds?
Minister.
Everything has been taken into consideration within looking at what is available and what is correct and what the demographics will look like. And I'm not going to preempt the answer to what's being looked at by mentioning either, but all aspects were taken into consideration, sir.
Supplemental,
Okay,
Deputy?
sir. And did that all aspects include the room for expansion at present sites of education?
So all options for future demand and demographics have been taken into consideration, sir.
Final supplementary, Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. If I ask the Minister what he exactly is taking to the Regeneration Steering Group, I suspect he won't tell us, but could instead I ask him if what he is taking to the Regeneration Steering Group is something which is in line already with the Bridging Island plan, or is it something that would require amendment to the Bridging Island plan to allow it to go ahead?
So I don't believe it would require an amendment with it. It's very exciting plans if we can get it through the Regenerating Steering Group, sir, but I do not believe that it will require an amendment.
No. We now come to question 7. The Deputy Tadier will ask for the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister provide an update on the progress that's been made recently, if any, towards joined up walking and cycling routes in the Lamoy area, including any land acquisition involved?
Minister.
Sir,
I'm able to advise, sir, that further to the recently completed zebra crossings at Le Creux and Lemoyne School, also the virtual footpath extensions from Claude Orange towards La Rue de Saint-Jean Junction, that a potential further opportunity for a footpath extensions and crossings within the Vantine are under development. However, due to the confidentiality surrounding the required enabling land negotiation, this remains policy under development, and I'm unable to elaborate more on that, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
I thank the Minister for that, and of course I understand the sensitivities around negotiation, so I won't pursue that line of questioning, sir. But can the Minister give an overview of what the vision is for the area? For example, is it the case that he hopes there will be connectivity right from the La Polente area to Route Orange, where one can travel on a cycle or footpath without having to go on the road? And if that is the vision, when he anticipates the project should be complete?
I would estimate it would definitely be by Q3 this year, but as I say, negotiations are ongoing. We have big aspirations for the area, so we've just done the Pont-Marquet Toucan railway track crossing, pedestrian crossing and bus stop improvements on Rue de Genet, Mont-Nicole School, pedestrian crossings improvements on Rue de Genet, and the bus stops there. So we do have that ambition for the area, so as we do for the whole island with the Safer Routes to School project, sir.
Very well, Constable Harbison Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that the 3-year delay he alludes to with regard to property acquisition is unreasonable, given that the owner of the property is a willing seller in the situation, and that his department have been tardy in completing this land deal to the benefit or to the detriment of the pedestrians in the area? Thank you, sir.
Definitely not, sir. The department is working tirelessly to get these projects through. We obviously have not had a lot of funds of late because those funds have been diverted. So, you know, we have been struggling with that, but we're very keen to progress all projects as soon as possible, sir.
Supplemental, Constable?
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree to meeting with myself and deputies responsible for the area to formulate a proper plan for to enable better cycle routes and better walking routes in the Lemoyne area? Thank you, sir.
Teams are being set up for that very thing, sir. Of course, representatives of the area constables and deputies will be included in that, sir. But as I say, we are recruiting for cycling proficiency people, and it will be on the cards in the very near future, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Tadier.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Just parenthetically, can the Minister pass on my thanks to those in the department who I know have been working very hard on these issues for a long time, and in line with what the Constable has said, would he consider in fairly short order providing perhaps an evening of a presentation for residents of that area who do have a keen interest and discuss these issues quite a lot on social media, perhaps somewhere like Le Creux, so that interested parties can come down and be told and engage in what the plan is, what the vision is for the area, sir? Would that be something he might consider?
So when negotiations are complete, I think I pointed out that there's certain confidentialities involved, which I can't go into regarding acquisitions. But once things are complete, more than happy to come down with the team and meet local representatives and indeed the people of the area. No problem at all. And I thank the Deputy for his kind comments, sir.
Very well. We come to question 8. The Deputy Southern will ask the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister confirm what consideration, if any, was given to the recent long-planned changes to the UK Highway Code during preparation of the Island Road Safety Review R185/2021, given that references to the changes are not in that review, despite the recommendation to review the island's existing legislation and highway code to identify the benefit and risks to road users of introducing a hierarchy of responsibility.
Thank you, sir. The Island Road Safety Review's purpose was to examine structural issues with the island's current approach to road safety and to suggest a new way forward. It specifically states work on reviewing the island's existing legislation and highway code will be developed in conjunction with planned updates to road legislation. It must be remembered this is only the first stage in process of improving road safety in Jersey. The next stage is the development of a 10-year road safety strategy, which will be set out in new methods of working required to deliver safety objectives and address the challenging target of halving the number of people killed and seriously injured on our roads by the end of 2032, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
So I'll start with an easy one, sir. What was the cost of the Island Road Safety Review, which failed to address the issue central to the changes in the UK?
There's no failure there, sir. Everything is ongoing. The two items were completely separate. And if I may expand on what our colleague, the Minister for Home Affairs, stated, that the Highway Code is a very valuable tool. And even though the Highway Code itself is not based in law, it does dovetail with the Jersey Road Traffic Law 1956 as amended, which is embedded in law. So parts of the Highway Code does have legal standing. For instance, one may read, one should do this or one should do that. Also in the Highway Code, you must stop at a red light. You must not drive the wrong way street. That is embedded in law. And the parts that are not embedded in law, if there's a road traffic collision and the Highway Code was ignored, a centennial magistrate or indeed a judge may, and I really emphasize may, give weight to that should there be a serious road traffic collision. Thanks, sir.
Sir, and if I may, the cost, please.
I don't have the cost, sir. I will need to review that.
Oh, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I was just about to unmute, which would have caused a load of feedback. Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, does he accept that there are concerns that the lack of reference to the changes of hierarchy in the Highway Code in the report was a glaring error and does reflect of a concern over a lack of preparation for the changes to the hierarchy of road users?
Well, as this is the UK Highway Code, which obviously was adopted, we have our own version of the Highway Code, such things as filter and turn roundabouts. I'm sure that would scare a lot of UK visitors, and also the yellow lines across the road, and a few minor things that we have local peculiarities for. Then there's differences there. Obviously, we don't have motorways, but you know, it was thought best to adopt the Highway Code many years ago, including the updates which come through from time to time, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Well, the question was about the omissions. So I don't have a supplementary. I think we're way off target at the moment.
Specific as to where he's going with that, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. In the light of the absence of the changes to the UK in the report so far done by his department, this is not surely akin to having a dog and barking yourself.
I'm not sure if that's a question, sir, but what can I say to that? And it is part, as I mentioned previously, it's part of a 10-year programme to improve road safety. And if the deputy has something he wishes to add to that, be more than happy to look at it, sir.
Very well. We come to question 9 that Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Children and Education. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, will the Minister advise what criteria were used to select the most recent schools to be included in the school meal pilot project? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So the most recent schools to be added to the school meals pilot are St Martin and St Peter. The pilot objectives are to understand the cost and feasibility associated with delivering nutritionally balanced meals in government-funded primary schools in Jersey, with a focus on achieving public health outcomes such as increasing the consumption of fruit and vegetable amongst children. To understand the methods for implementation, commissioning and barriers to delivery, and to review user feedback and lessons learned in order to make recommendations for a sustainable and cost-effective model of provision. The original plan was to pilot the scheme in 3 schools, and we are now extending it up to 5. Within the criteria for extending the pilot, we have taken into consideration how easy or challenging it is to fit out the schools with an appropriate servery area. In the extended pilot, we have selected schools where this is straightforward. Within the criteria, we are also keen to test the pilot by bringing in out-of-town schools to understand the methods for implementation, uptake among students, and barriers to delivery in accordance with the pilot's objectives.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Yes, thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that the greatest need is within the town schools, where pupil premium levels, Jersey premium levels are 53%, 50% and 44% of students, and therefore the impact would have been greatest? And does he not feel that that criteria of the greatest impact should have perhaps been weighted when making this decision, therefore to have, if you like, the biggest bang for your buck, sir? Thank you very much.
Sir, within this pilot, we have to take into consideration that there are 25 primary schools in the island. Most of them, if not all of them, were never built with a fit-for-purpose modern health and safety servery area, so we can deliver food to children safely within those buildings, and each building has to be assessed to be able to see whether there is current capacity and room for a servery that will meet modern health and safety standards, along with if we need to build an extension to put them in through lack of space, sir. So when we're looking at a pilot and we need to see how the feasibility of how the whole scheme will work across the whole island for 25 schools, we need to look across the board at schools in town and out of town so that we can properly assess for a tender process to take place what the actual scheme will look like, the challenges of making 3,000 hot meals a day and delivering them across the island to 25 schools and serving them within those schools, sir. That's why the criteria was what it was. I do agree with the Deputy that there is greater need in the pupil premium if it's uptaken to its fullest, but sir, that's why we did what we did.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Is it not the case that it would have provided far better detail of what you can and can't do if the Minister had chosen schools with high pupil premiums?
No, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy.
If I may, sir. So the Minister chose to go for easy targets. Is that the case?
No, sir.
Senator Mesek.
Thank you, sir. Is it not the case that the school meal programme has already shown its value? And is it not the case that it is clear at this point that a rollout across all the schools in the island is surely an inevitability based on what the pilot has shown us already? And would he agree actually to set that as the direction of travel now?
Minister.
Sir, the direction of travel is to get it into all school meals, and the pilot will continue to extend to more schools throughout the year. That's already set in place. We're extending the pilot so that we can get the best possible information. We have been working with the amazing charity Caring Cooks, who have been providing us with the information and who have agreed that with the work that we've done and the information we've got, that extending the pilot will help better achieve the right outcomes for a full programme, sir.
And
supplemental, yes, Senator.
Thank you, sir. And therefore, will the Minister undertake now to commit to ensuring that the next steps of expanding this pilot will be focused at those schools where there is the demonstrable greatest need for those children to access this programme, and in particular that should include the town schools, where a recent answer to a written question from Deputy Ward showed that they are where the greatest need is, and that ought to be pursued as a matter of priority. Does he not agree?
Sir, I will take into consideration, and if it's not me, whoever precedes me will take into consideration the evidence as put forward about the best way to go forward. I will not make a commitment that will preempt that evidence-based work for headlines, sir.
Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. The Minister mentioned that he's chosen out-of-town schools, which I understand. And did he consider any St Saviour schools, given the high level of need in some of our schools in St Saviour?
So all schools were considered. It was about where we would get the best data to be able to create the best service across after the pilot about delivering a full service to all schools. So that's why we considered what it was. We had to look at whether we would have to do a planning application to build a servery within certain schools, and a lot of the schools don't have the space to be able to put a servery in without building planning applications and extensions. So we try to deliver what we could to get better information in the best possible way to be able to create a really good service when it comes to the actual delivery after the pilot, sir.
Supplementary. Thank you,
Yes.
sir. And what will the Deputy hope to learn about the schools that don't have serveries yet, if the pilot scheme doesn't include those schools without serveries?
So we are looking at we need to have a kitchen that can cook 2,500 to 3,000 meals a day, and they need to be delivered across the whole of the island to schools inside and outside of town. So it was really important to be able to work out things like travel routes, delivery and staffing for areas around the island within the pilot, sir.
Very much. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I would like Minister to address two things that he gave in his answers. From one side, the pilot should present way forward and how to address challenges to deliver hot food meals at schools. From other side, the schools in town, for example, as Minister indicated, they don't meet modern health and safety standard, and the reason that these school meals cannot be introduced. How we can understand what's the way forward to introduce meals in much needed town schools with the high Jersey premium, if we are not creating a trial to do this?
So we are creating a trial. We are currently in a trial. All schools have been actually assessed by the Sites Department to identify which schools would require an extension and a planning application, which we couldn't do during COVID while we had schools in one-way systems and classroom bubbles. It would have been completely unacceptable, and I wish we were further along, but COVID really has put us in a situation in some places. So we have gone for, there are children in all schools that this service will help. And the ones that we picked in St Martin St Peters cannot be forgotten either, but we can get there quick and easily to help those children that shouldn't be left while collecting good data. And at the same time, over this period, we have been identifying within schools areas of how we can deliver a service with a modern health and safety met standards of a servery within those schools to find out if there's space currently or if there isn't. And in most instances, there isn't. None of the schools were even built with a nursery, and we had to build nurseries on many schools to even get them into our schools, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. So if I understood correct, the town schools that don't meet health and safety requirement require extension and require planning application. it means that the town schools will not receive meals for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Sir, I don't believe I said any of such, and that was an assumption by the deputy.
Well, I think it's a statement of what the deputy understands to be what you the implication of what you said, and it could well be the subject of a legitimate question. So, if you'd like to answer it, Minister.
Thank you, sir. I do believe that standing order says that questions shouldn't be statements, but I will answer. Sir, it's been reviewed. We're looking at it now. It's not going to be 2 to 3 years for all of this. We need to make sure we do this right, and that anyone that takes over this service when it's a full service knows the full implications of what's being done. Otherwise, we are only going to deliver something that doesn't provide a service for the children that's required, sir.
Very much. Before we come to the fund supplementary, you made an observation there, Deputy, that you thought standing orders had a particular effect. I'm sure you will accept standing orders is a matter for the chair. Questions can be posed in a number of different rhetorical forms, including a statement with an upward inflection at the end. They can be questions just as much, and they are not simple statements. They are obviously posed as questions, and that is a matter within the judgment and discretion of the presiding officer. Very well.
Thank you, can I just state the standing order, sir?
I beg your pardon?
Can I state the standing order that I believed that it was not in order with, please, sir?
No, the standing order provides that a question should not be a statement of fact or anything of that nature. That's what the standing order provides. It shouldn't. But if someone says, I understand what you are saying is this, that is a question. If it's done in a question form with an upward inflection at the end, which I heard that to be. That's my ruling on the matter. We're not going to have a discussion on standing orders, but if you wish to raise the matter with me outside of the Assembly, please do not hesitate to do so. Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. From my understanding of the answer so far, would the Minister agree that given the limited resources available for the project in terms of being able to cook meals, would it not be best to focus those on where the most need is? If you have a limited resource, focus it where it's most needed. Because, sir, would the Minister not agree that these young children in our town schools only get one go at school, and as time passes, they miss out on something that could be beneficial, and so we've missed a real opportunity to impact on children's lives much more fully with what is a project that I believe would be fully supported across this Assembly. Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, just because we have opened up the pilot to 2 schools where we can deliver to the children as soon as possible this required need of hot meals does not stop or slow down the work that is already underway to make sure that the schools that do need longer and stronger applications that would require building to take place. That work is still going on and will be taken part throughout the year as part of the delivery of the programme. But that does not mean that we should not deliver the service to other children outside of town where there is also a need, which is just as great for those children as there is for the children in town, sir.
Well, we come to question 10. The Deputy Tadier will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Tadier.
Thank you. Will the Minister advise what additional health and safety warnings have been issued to pedestrians using the tunnel during the ongoing roadworks at Hovde de Par in terms of the quality of air they can expect? And is it the Minister's assessment that it is safe for pedestrians, including children and pregnant women, to use the tunnel during peak times?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. The tunnel, sir, operates at capacity or close to capacity throughout the day in normal operation. This situation has not been changed by the essential works at Hovde de Par. The short period, approximately 3 minutes, it typically takes a pedestrian to walk through the tunnel is not captured within the European or World Health Organization advice on exposure to poor air quality. There is no requirement under British standards for internal ventilation for the tunnel because of the length it allows to be naturally ventilated at each end. However, signage is provided to pedestrians that the air quality is poor, so an informed decision as to whether to use the route can be made. Thanks, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The Minister, does the Minister ever use the tunnel to walk to work and back? And if not, why not?
Yes, sir, I do. Not very often, possibly 3 or 4 times a year. I have walked that way. Not something I'd recommend. The air quality is not good. No one is saying it is. But I believe originally the walkways on left and right were for emergency use only. But the states mandated there should be a walkway for pedestrians to go through. I'm not an engineer, but I would estimate that if the tunnel was half as long again as it is, it would possibly need mechanical extraction of the air. But if one looks at the tunnel or even cycles through the tunnel, you'll see there's actually a marked rise in the tunnel going from west to east. This has, with the usual prevailing southwesterly winds, that does ventilate the tunnel to some extent. The angle of the tunnel is not apparent unless you are cycling, when in fact going from west to east you are cycling uphill. So there is, as I say, if it was twice as long or half as long again, there would be a case for mechanical extraction. But at the moment it's perfectly adequate. I wouldn't recommend people to walk through it, but if they wish to do so, then that would be their choice, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister what air quality monitoring is undertaken in the tunnel? Thanks.
There was, where are we? A public health position, a study of the air quality within the tunnel was undertaken in 2017, focusing on exposure to pedestrians, cyclists, and those in vehicles. It found elevated levels of NO2 and particulate matter during the hours of elevated traffic, obviously 08 until 1900, and it takes a fit pedestrian approximately 3 minutes to walk through the tunnel. The short length of time means it isn't captured within European organisation advice. So, as I say, it's a borderline. It's not a perfect solution, which is illustrated by the fact that the tunnel is closed several times a year for cleaning. So, you know, it does illustrate it's not a perfect policy. That will get better in time, obviously, with the reintroduction of more electric cars, but that's way down the road. At the moment, it's not perfect, and we don't recommend that people walk through the tunnel, sir.
Yes. A supplemental to that?
Yes, the question really was about live air monitoring, so that so I asked that question. Is there live air monitoring, time-dependent air monitoring, so that the Minister could take a decision to give advice to the public to say the air quality is so poor, I advise you that you do not walk down it at particular times, particular seasons, etc. Is there any facility to do that, and would the Minister issue that guidance for the safety of pedestrians? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
That would be down to our colleagues at Public Health, sir, but there is no live air monitoring, but as I say, there's been several static monitorings over the years, so the last one being 2017. As I say, it's not perfect, and I say it is signed to that effect that we try and get people through there as soon as possible, sir.
Deputy Masson.
Thank you, sir. And I think the Minister's just answered my question. I've used the tunnel on many occasions. I've noticed that there's quite clear signage about the poor quality of air within the tunnel. So therefore, will the Minister confirm that that signage is there quite clearly for members of the public, and that there are alternative routes via Snow Hill Car Park as an alternative?
Indeed, sir. I believe it says members of the public or pedestrians are warned that at certain times of day the air quality is poor in the tunnel. I believe that's at both ends. There is a one-way system left and right, so one doesn't have to come past other people coming the other way. But it is clearly signposted, sir, and there are alternate routes. But I do use it myself, not often. It's not a perfect route for pedestrians, but that would be my choice. I'm reasonably fit. I've got long legs, so I can get through there quite quickly. I do, whenever possible, put a handkerchief over my mouth because it's not perfect to walk through, but it is clearly signed to that effect. And I thank the Deputy for the question, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Masson?
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Tadier.
Thank you, sir. So to contextualise, whilst there is signage which I had asked to put back when it was removed, which does say that during peak time air quality in this tunnel is poor, does the Minister accept that the roadworks at Hov de Par have meant that the peak time in the tunnel is now virtually constant throughout the daytime, when previously it might not have been peak? And it is important that pedestrians in particular are made aware that there will be poor air quality in the tunnel at probably most times during the day where there wasn't before because of this roadworks.
I would accept that. So yes, indeed, it's instead of having the rush hour, it is a permanent congestion point there. I say, luckily the fault that stopped the Hov de Par works going has been rectified, and hopefully we'll be catching up with works at Hov de Par so we can be open as soon as possible. But there will be a slight delay in reopening, but hopefully, fingers crossed, not too big a delay. But I accept the point, sir.
Well, we now come to the final question with notice, question 11, that Senator Mesek will ask of the Chief Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. What statistical evidence, if any, does the Chief Minister have to determine whether the ambitions set out in the Common Strategic Policy to deliver a fair balance between wages, taxes and benefits, rents and living costs for islanders has been achieved?
Deputy Chief Minister, are you dealing with this?
It's okay with the Senator. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So as members will be aware, the 2022 government plan allocated additional funding to allow the Living Cost and Household Income Survey to be restarted from September 2021, which will run for a period of 1 year. The original survey was started in 2019, but was severely disrupted by COVID because it involved a significant amount of fieldwork and personal contact. However, the high-level findings from the interrupted 2019-2020 survey will be published during this term of the state's. The income distribution preliminary report from 2021 and 2022 is provisionally scheduled for August 2022, with the full results from the survey expected in Q1 of 2023. In terms of the statistical evidence, this will provide the best indication of overall living standards for islanders. The last housing costs household income survey was completed in 2015, and it is important, sir, that these surveys are carried out more frequently in the future, and that will of course be subject to further funding.
Supplemental question, Senator.
Thank you, sir. I believe that was a long way of answering with the word none, because in the Deputy Chief Minister's answer, he appeared to reference no statistics that bear this out, whether that is the case. So can I ask the Deputy Chief Minister if, based on access to the statistics which we do have, like, for example, Statistic Jersey's reports on real terms earnings, would he like to give his assessment of whether this government so far in its term, which is almost at an end, has achieved a fairer balance between wages, taxes and benefits, rents and living costs, which was very clearly stipulated in the Common Strategic Policy as one of their aims? Does he believe we are better or worse on that metric?
Thank you, sir. The Senator is technically correct that we have no statistics from the housing incomes plan because it was unfortunately delayed. We should now be in possession of those statistics. Will help us to judge how we've been getting on, if we've made any progress, what sort of progress, if we haven't made progress, because on top of the pressures faced by COVID in the logistics of completing such surveys, there have been enormous other pressures. There's pressure coming along in the, for example, with cost of living and increase in price, and not only on the back of COVID, but on the back of Brexit as well. So there are huge challenges coming along. So it is difficult to accurately state what progress has been made. So we can go down and list a list of we can go down and list the policies that have been enacted to help alleviate the problem, and help with the drive towards better income equality. But without those very important statistics, so there's no way of showing how successful, if at all, we've been.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Will the Assistant Minister now commit himself to the publication of what factors, what income distribution trends we have already for 2021, for example, which may have been done, even at a high level, so that before we come to the next election, they can check out whether we've actually achieved any progress on this front or not?
Well, so I would very much like to make that commitment, but I'm not sure it's going to be possible. The results of the 2019-2020 work, and I took some time to speak to the head of statistics Jersey this morning to get the very latest update. We'll manage to get to about 50% of the samples. So there will be some high level, well, not fully detailed, but there'll be some high level results from that, which we're committed to publishing. And the aim is to publish them in the first quarter. The work that was restarted in 2021 and is due to be presented in August 2022. So I'm not sure is going to be at the stage where we can draw any meaningful data from it, but we can certainly I can undertake to talk to Statistics Jersey to see if there is any early high level data that can be shared. So yes, very prepared to do that.
Supplemental.
Sir, will he go further and not just simply talk to the stats, but to make a political decision that actually it's essential to have this high level 50% information out in the public in order to have a meaningful conversation about our economy and about income distribution on the island?
Well, but do our very best, sir. Statistics Jersey do run independently of the government, so we have to work collegially with them, and I will certainly undertake to do whatever we can to get those helpful statistics out. So, but like I say, it might be difficult because of the short period of time since restarting the survey. There might not be enough data gathered to give anything meaningful, but we should certainly try, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister to go back to the question in regards to strategic policy to deliver a fair balance? And one of the factors is living costs. Does the Assistant Chief Minister recognise that and there's been a significant increase in basic living costs, such as things like pasta and daily staples, which disproportionately affects those on the lowest incomes? Does he recognise that that is affecting people on this island daily?
Yes, sir, of course. I think we all do. We're all acutely aware of the inflationary challenges that we are facing, not least in foodstuffs, sir. Having said that, some welcome news was that our recent inflationary figures were lower than anticipated because we don't have the challenges of the high soaring energy costs that we're seeing in other countries, mainly the UK. But yes, there are severe pressures at the lower end in certain sectors, sir. So whilst we have made some headway, for example, increasing minimum wage by 23% since 2018, of course, moves like that are offset against the cost of living index. So it's important we stay ahead of the game.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister recognise that those inflation figures quoted can mask the significant increase in some areas, such as those food staples, that disproportionately affect people on lower incomes? And therefore, where does the use of, for example, food banks fall into this balance of between wages, taxes, benefits, rents and living costs? Because they're increasing. And is there any data on that?
Thank you, sir. Of course, the overall total RPI figures are, as the Deputy knows, an amalgamation of all the figures, but in the report, so every category is broken down. So it is clearly visible. So I'm not sure how the increasing usage of food banks is is measured in the equation, I simply don't know. So, and I don't think we have any statistics to deal with that.
Well, final supplementary, Senator Messing.
Thank you, sir. In an answer to one of Deputy Ward's questions, the Deputy Chief Minister referred to cost of living index and rises in the minimum wage. These are two metrics by which you can judge success on what the Common Strategic Policy asks this government to deliver on. So I'm asking him, I kind of think this is the third time I've asked him this same question, but based on the statistical evidence that he does have access to, like RPI figures, like the breakdown of RPI figures, like the housing cost survey, like the real terms earnings index, can this Deputy Chief Minister say that this government has succeeded in this term of office in its aim to deliver a fair balance between wages, tax and benefits, rents and living costs? Or would he prefer to say what most of us recognise as the reality, which is that they have failed to deliver on this, and that the statistical evidence we do have shows that life has not got better for the people who this pledge was targeted at?
Thank you, sir. Whilst the statistics are not available to show that we have succeeded, I would certainly say we haven't failed. The statistics are required to measure both descriptions that the senator refers to. What I can say, sir, is that this government is committed, as stated in our in the Common Strategic Plan, as approved by the States Assembly, to working to reduce income inequality. That's what we've been doing. That's what we're going to continue to do. I hope the next government continues to do that. So we've been doing it, as members will know, against the most extraordinary and unexpected economic circumstances, sir. But I can continue to give that commitment to the Assembly, that although we can't measure whether we succeeded or whether we failed, we are doing everything we can to alleviate the problem, sir. But there's more to do.
Very well, that brings questions with notice to an end. We now move on to the first question period for ministers. The first minister to answer questions is the Minister for International Development. Conataba St Martin.
Thank you, sir. I recently read that this year marks 50 years of overseas volunteering. Will Jersey Overseas Aid be acknowledging this milestone? And what is the current status of these projects, given COVID and international travel restrictions?
Minister.
Thank you. Indeed, 2020 is a milestone year for us. And since 1972, Jersey Overseas Aid has facilitated parties and volunteers to work with communities in developing countries, and as well as bringing lasting benefits to poor and vulnerable people, these community work projects serve to raise awareness in Jersey of global development issues and also play an important part in islanders' own development. Many have led to lasting links with communities all over the world, and indeed some of the volunteers have set up their own charities on the back of it. And by 2021 we had an impressive 1,000 volunteers from Jersey who had completed 100 projects in some of the world's poorest communities. As to the current status and travel, due to COVID, we have not been able to organise any trips for 2 years. However, I'm really hopeful that CWP will be heading to Kenya in June to build a sand dam, and another one to Nepal later on in the year.
Supplemental question, Conataba?
No, I thank the Minister for her answer. Thank you.
Deputy IA.
Thank you, sir. I noticed that Jersey Overseas Aid is supporting long-term development projects in 6 targeted countries. Will the Minister advise how these particular countries were selected and why were they restricted to 6? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Minister.
Well, aid which is not properly targeted or dissipated on hundreds of tiny projects, or aid which is focused on immediate activities rather than long-term results, is more likely to be aid wasted. We have a responsibility to the world's poor and to the Jersey taxpayer to make every penny count. So we're focusing our development grants on fewer countries, chosen not only where needs are greatest, but where lower levels of corruption mean that aid can have more of an impact. In fact, I think we are the first donor in the world to take account of corruption levels as well as development needs in our choice of countries, which enables Jersey to achieve greater impact in each place. Now we have a particular formula for choosing our countries, and first and foremost it's based on need. So we use the Humanitarian Development Index. We then use the Corruption Index, and we also then choose countries where we're likely to give the most, the likelihood is we'll have the most lasting change. And obviously we consider language, because we've got to read the reports, and access.
Well, supplemental question, Deputy.
Nothing further, thank you, sir.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Minister whether she has a policy or view on whether or how the Overseas Aid Commission should provide aid and support to people around the world who are living under the specific crime against humanity, which is apartheid?
No, sir, we don't have a particular policy on that particular aspect.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Would the Minister therefore give some consideration as to whether they should do this or not, bearing in mind the two reports that have come out recently, one from Human Rights Watch and one from Amnesty International, declaring that the Palestinian population who live under the jurisdiction of Israel are subjected to the crime against humanity of apartheid?
Yes, most certainly, and indeed the particular jurisdiction that the Senator is talking about, because on Jersey Overseas Aid, we are guided by the needs of those affected by natural disasters and armed conflict. Our core values are humanity, impartiality, independence and neutrality. And we have indeed recognised that 2.1 million people, that's approximately 40% of the population of Gaza and the West Bank, are currently in need of humanitarian assistance. So in recent times, Jersey Overseas Aid has provided aid to the occupied Palestinian territories to the tune of over 1.13 million. So it's not the political aspect, because as I've described, Jersey Overseas Aid is likes to address need in an impartial, independent and neutral way. But we have indeed recognised the very great need of the people in Gaza and the West Bank.
Deputy Haggarrow.
Thank you, sir. How significant does the Minister think the Bridging Ireland plan will be on the island's identity?
That's a very good question. Well, I would like to think it's obviously a balance. I would like to think that we can provide adequate housing for our population, both affordable, right sizing and free market accommodation for the people who live and work in the island. But also, if we are to rezone, that they are carefully chosen sites. And I would also like, in the Bridging Ireland plan, I would also like to see a more aggressive rollout of the cycle network in the island. I think that could add huge amounts to the island identity. And indeed, one of the recommendations of the island identity documentation, the policy developments report, one of the recommendations was that the Bridging Island Plan and planning should give guidance to and give places a sense of place, give open spaces a sense of place. So I think it could have a very positive effect. I'm hopeful it will have a very positive effect on the island identity.
Supplemental, Deputy Lehebrer?
No, thank you, sir.
Deputy Masson?
Thank you, sir. I heard recently on BBC Radio Jersey that Jersey's overseas aid are to prioritise cash assistance in communities affected in emergencies. I wonder if the Minister can explain why.
Yes, sir. Cash transfer interventions are increasingly considered by donors and humanitarian agencies as appropriate as an appropriate emergency response to meet immediate needs of food and non-food items and to support the recovery of livelihoods. It gives households a greater degree of choice and permits them to spend money according to their own priorities, which in effect gives greater dignity to those that are receiving the cash. It also is likely to be cheaper and faster to distribute than alternatives, such as food distribution, so it's cost effective. It's better for the local economy, as it means rather than shipping food and goods to a jurisdiction, to a country, it means that the recipients of the cash are spending in the local economy where they are. So, and importantly, I would say it's it gives greater empowerment to women, as well, especially women and marginalised groups.
Supplemental question, Deputy Masson?
Yes, sir. I thank the Minister for her answer. And given the balance in emergency situations, things will be in disarray. Given this approach, how are these funds audited in order to guarantee that they get to the right recipient and not, you know, basically people it shouldn't be going to?
Well, a lot of the cash assistance is now given through sophisticated means. So the NGOs that we work with will set up facilities at a local bank. And I've seen it working in action, actually, is where the particular people that can access cash can go into a bank and they get recognition through the iris of their eyes. So it's rather like a thumbprint, if you like, and they're given cash assistance in that way. Also, using mobile phones these days, people are allowed to access banking facilities on their phones and access saving and microcredit that way.
Well, Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. And could the Minister give her view on what established pathways there are for reaching out to the various international communities in Jersey, i.e. is it done via the consuls or any other ways? What is she aware of that there currently is in Jersey, and does she think it works well or not?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question, and it's one that the Island Identity Report is focusing on, and there's some work going on currently and in the lead up to the conference, which is happening on the 15th of February, whereby we've tasked Jersey Policy Forum with having meetings and with international groups in the island to work out the the barriers that they face and to work out how their experience could be better served in Jersey. What would make them more welcoming? I mean, we've got various things that we're doing, like providing an information and knowledge resource on our website. And we've been having meetings with various departments, for example, Social Security, when people pick up a Social Security card when they arrive in the island. We've suggested giving them a welcome pack so that they have access and they know what's going on and how to access various services, etc. So it is a job of work going on at the moment, and we're hoping to have the conclusions of that work at the conference, but it is an ongoing project.
Supplemental question, Deputy Doublé.
Yes, please, sir. Would the Minister keep the Diversity Forum informed of this work, because we'd be really interested to make use of those pathways? And does the Minister have a vision for what she thinks it would look like? Like, what does she think would be the ideal solution in terms of making sure that those international communities can access government and access democracy?
Well, I think knowledge is giving people the knowledge as to how to access democracy, how to access services. And as I say, we've been doing a job of work with Social Security, customer relations, and also with PPC, so that there's an educational programme for children in schools, but obviously not just children need to know about the island, newcomers need to know. So we're hoping that it can be accessible, that that facility can be accessible. I will, of course, keep the Diversity Forum appraised of the situation, and I hope that states members are going to attend the conference where they can hear more about it.
Well, that brings the time available for questions to this Minister to an end. The next period of questions for the Minister for Social Security. Does anyone have any questions for that Minister? Deputy of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Minister to inform the Assembly of the process of becoming assessed for long-term care?
Minister.
Yes, it's a medical assessment done by doctors at the hospital, and then they will come to my department, and it's my department who will pay the money.
Supplemental, Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister what the time frame for that being done is usually, please?
I'm told it back in the day it was quite a while, but I've told they've got this down to a very fine art now, and I'm told it's about a week. If the Deputy is hearing other stories, please let us know, because something might be going wrong again, but it was really being processed very quickly.
Well, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. So can I ask the Minister, given she made a statement earlier regards repayments, would the Minister be willing to review cases where repayments have been going on for longer than 1 year, particularly where people have retired and now are on a very set income? Thanks.
Minister.
I've had this question many times, and I'll try and keep it very simple. If you've got two families, I would say two single parent families, two children, receiving about £350 a week, but the other family has moved somebody in or has got some work, and there's another £500 a week coming into that house, sir. So it's only a month, it's an extra £2,000. I have to ask that money's paid back over a certain time, because the first family has still been living on the £350 a week, and the second family is £350 a week plus the 500 that's been in the house because they haven't informed the department that somebody's moved in. And it's just across the board. It's taxpayers' money. It makes, we've got 5 5,500 people on income support, and you've got to be fair to everybody. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deb.
So I don't think that was an answer to the question, but so can I ask the Minister, given that there are no cases of fraud, virtually all cases, and there's no fraud case taken, so it's an error from the department, will the Minister use her discretion after a set time to remove the burden of overpayment? So, for example, if somebody has an overpayment of £8,273.69, that could take a significant amount of time to repay, and it could simply have been happening for 2 or 3 years beforehand. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, sir. I think the deputy made a bold statement that there's no fraud, and I do think most of these overpayments are not intentional. But when a change in circumstances happen and we're not told, that's how these big numbers come up. And again, I will say there are other families on income support who don't get the extra 8,260, whatever it was, and they don't have to pay it back, but they have to manage. And again, it's taxpayers' money. I don't know, I can keep saying it, sir. If you're not sure, if you've got a bit more money, if someone's moved in with you, not sure, contact the department straight away, and don't, as I say, £500 over 4 weeks to that family is £2,000. That's a lot of money to pay back, and they may have already spent it.
Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the cost of living is rising exponentially. So can the Minister indicate if any short-term measures are being considered to help the financial squeeze felt by those receiving income support? Thank you, sir.
Well, we are, when the figures came in a couple of weeks back, we've looked at different things we could do, and we are still keeping a watching brief. This year, last year rather, I put the income support components up twice, so they'll go up in October. So it doesn't really matter that the income support people don't need to worry who's in government and who's vying for this. That's there. Contacted all the energy suppliers my officers have, and they've said, you know, they're really, really open to long plans. Please don't not put your heating on. We've got the gas scheme, and that's not really been taken up because there's not many people on gas, but it's there if they're wanting it. So I'll say, you know, with the doctors are a lot cheaper, and that's just been renewed. So as to Deputy Truscott, we are keeping a watching brief and to see where we may need to, but at the moment we haven't made any final decisions.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
No supplemental. I thank the Minister for her answer.
Deputy IE.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister update the Assembly as to the progress of the proposals to implement P70 2021 parental bereavement leave? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. And this, over the last couple of weeks, we've been having much discussions. I can assure the Deputy that it's going to be a day one law, but that law comes under the employment law and will need primary legislation, and we will have to go to Privy Council. So with the timing, won't be able to do that. I'm doing a full report. We're now looking at the money side because it's going to be, I know it's a very small amount of people, but in such very tragic circumstances, we want to make sure we've got the scheme right, that you know, it does what I think the Deputy wants, and then obviously we'll be consulting with Footprints and Jacks and Chamber, etc. But as the report becomes much more put together, I will obviously bring in the Deputy and hope he thinks it does what he exactly wanted. He wanted it to say on the tin. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy IE.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that a shortage of law drafters has led to the delay in bringing forward legislation? Thank you, sir.
coming near to the end of a term and there's lots of things that do need doing. I've been told that we are short at this particular time on law drafting. But given that the instructions, I can do the instructions. It is technical because some people will already be on parental leave, and if something very sad happens there, we've got to instruct that it's, you know, they can have that leave or this leave, etc., etc. But I am told there will be some definitely law drafting time over the election time, and whoever the new minister is, or challenge for the new ministry, this will be one of the first pieces of legislation that they should be able to bring to the Assembly, sir.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Does the minister not consider that a household with a total of £150 a week to live off after rent should be asked to pay back a loan at the rate of £22.50? Is that not likely to cause hardship to this family? And is the issue that underpins these overpayments that we actually pay people in advance? And if we pay in arrears, which we could do because we're so efficient at getting the payments out, would that not improve the situation?
Minister.
I'll deal with the paying in arrears first, and I absolutely think that is terrible. I've looked at the universal credit and I just don't agree with that. And the example the deputy gave was probably a single parent or single pensioner, when, as I said, what we've done, you know, with the child component, etc., etc., single parent with 2 children gets roughly £350 a week plus their rent paid. So I think I've answered his question.
Supplemental question?
There's no answer in there. The situation was £150 a week after rent to live off, and is that likely to be paid back at a rate of £22.50, causing hardship?
The person obviously got the overpayment. I don't know for how long. Was it thousands? Was it hundreds? And if they're paying back an overpayment, they had the money in the first place. That's the answer.
Conor Tarver, St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. Will the minister advise members what happens to income support payments for those who are admitted to hospital?
It depends on how long I think they're in there. As Delta, it does. If it's a long time, the living component, which would be, you know, the adult component, would not be paid for the time. It's say 3 or 4 weeks would not be paid because they'll be being provided with their food and board in the hospital. I think that's correct, but if I'm wrong, I will let the constable know. But I'm sure I'm correct on that one.
Supplemental question, Conor Tarver?
Yes, please, sir. I thank the minister for her response and ask her who is responsible for advising the department of the admittance to hospital, and is there a time frame for the income support payments to be repaid to the department if they have been paid during the term of hospitalisation? Thank you, sir.
It's very clear, and I keep trying to make it as clear as possible on all our letters that go out with awards or increases, or even like the dental thing we're doing now. Bold letters. If you have any change in circumstances, please contact the department. Now, obviously, if you only think you're going in the hospital for a few days and something perhaps doesn't go as well as it should, you wouldn't. But then if you know you're going in for 3 or 4 weeks, you should. It's a change of circumstances. Maybe that needs to be made much clearer. I've had one case in the last 4 years where they hadn't understood this. And I don't know if the council has had any more, but if we're not making it clear enough, we need to make sure we're communicating it much better. Thank you.
Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, sir. There wasn't an additional part to my supplementary question. I don't know if I'm able to put that to the minister again.
I'm sorry, was that a part that you asked and didn't answer? I'm afraid it passed me by. What was it?
I did, sir, and the minister didn't answer it. I asked whether there was a time frame for income support repayment to be made by the person who was hospitalised. Is there a deadline for repayment? Thank you, sir.
There's not a set. Again, officers, depending on what it is, the officers will look at the case, and if it needs to be, I wouldn't know how much. So then it will be the lowest is about £2 a week. Sorry, £2 a day, and then if it's only a few pounds, it could be done in a week. But if it's more, it will be done over a time. There is a not cut-off time, and if you haven't paid it back, we're going to increase it or anything like that. No.
Well, Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, where the department makes mistakes, which they often do, which results in overpayments, and the person effectively is sanctioned and has to repay that money over time, are there any barriers or any that prevent these people having the case revisited? And if evidence is produced which shows the department made the error, that they can be released from those repayments?
I think that me and the Deputy will have to disagree, because the majority of overpayments are just clients, customers, income support families just not telling us up-to-date information. And it may be a week or two, as I just said, an example there. If somebody moves in on £500 a week, that's £2,000 in a month overpayment. And the department only can work on with the information it has, and the Deputy has asked me now this about 15 times, and the answer's still no. It is not my money. It's taxpayers' money to help people when they find themselves in a need, and I'm sort of the custodian of that, and I think it is fair that it's paid back, because the other families didn't get it, did they? Thank you.
Well, that brings, no, I'm sorry, Deputy, that brings the time available to questions to this Minister to an end. The next question period is for the Chief Minister, Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. Just a bit slow there with my computer system. With the ending of the testing at the borders coming to an end this Monday, will the Deputy Chief Minister pay tribute to all the islanders and the team who were involved in the testing over the last 2 years, but reassure all of us what the policy is for ensuring that those people who are no longer working will be given help to find work within the government if there are roles to play, or help transitioning out of their roles? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the Deputy for the question. And of course, I'm sure the whole Assembly will join in paying tribute to all of the staff, especially those on the front line throughout the last 2 years that have managed to get us through to where we are today. And not only, sir, to the staff, but of course we must also pay tribute to the islanders, sir, the vast majority of whom have really supported the government and the state's decisions to keep islanders safe and protect the economy throughout that very difficult period, sir. I do very much hope that we will be able to absorb some of those people that have been working for us on temporary contracts throughout that period into our public sector workforce where they are needed. So we do have vacancies, and whilst I can't give a precise update to the Deputy of where we are with that, that's certainly a position that is supported. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, and I thank the Deputy Chief Minister for his answer. Given that, will there be a statement released or some reassurance or somewhere on the website of gov.je for those people, not just at the border testing at the airport who has just come to an end, but anybody who's worked across government in the last 2 years can find the information with where the next step? Will he commit to releasing that information and ensuring that goes online for them? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Whilst I can't give that guarantee, sir, I will certainly take that up with the Chief Minister or the Assistant Chief Minister in their capacity of Chair and Vice Chair of the State's Employment Board. Thank you.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Following that question from Deputy Pamplin and the Deputy Chief Minister paying tribute to those frontline workers, would you like to inform the Assembly by how much the pay of those frontline workers has gone up during the pandemic and how that compares with RPI or another cost of living metric?
Regrettably, so I can't. I don't have that information to hand, but I'm happy to provide it to the Senator, sir. Thank you.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. And of course, the reason I asked that question is because it has not compared favourably. So would this Deputy Chief Minister like to put his support to pay proper tribute to our frontline workers by supporting them with a decent pay rise that matches the effort they've put into keeping us safe throughout this pandemic, and ensuring that for once the government does actually stick to its priority of attempting to improve the standard of living, as in previous questions he was unable to provide us any evidence that they have actually stuck to that.
Thank you. So whilst I am very often prepared to take the Senator's words as read, sir, I would need to check on the pay scales, because I simply don't know what levels of pay have been attributed to the people on the front line, although I understand it they were good rates of pay, sir, and I don't know if they have increased or by what amount they've increased, but I will find that out, sir. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the second part of the question.
I think it's a commit to make sure that they are actually rewarded in financial terms, was the thrust of the second part of the Senator's question.
Well, as I said, sir, I believe they were appropriately and adequately rewarded for the very important work they've done, sir. And as most of that work is now coming to an end, I'm not sure we can give them pay increases, because most of them will be redistributed into the workforce and to the island labour market.
Conor St Helier.
Thank you, sir. The Deputy Chief Minister will be aware that at the last meeting, I asked the Chief Minister whether he would support the doubling of the size of the Millennium Town Park, which is the vision of Andiam Homes, and the Chief Minister was distinctly lukewarm about it. Can the Deputy Chief Minister be a bit more enthusiastic about this project?
I can be as enthusiastic, sir. I try to be enthusiastic. Yes, one of the I think one of the very challenging issues for the parish of St Helier and the Constable and the Deputy, sir, is the lack of green space throughout the town. It's far less than many other much larger towns and cities, and it's something that needs addressing. So I remember not supporting the Andiam Homes development of the former Ann Street site, sir, because I felt, as did other members, that would be an important space for green, for new park and green areas, sir. I'm not too close to the future plans or the proposals for that area, but if I was asked just now, sir, without knowing that, I would say yes, I do support the expansion of the town park. So I think it's hugely important for that part of town. And on top of that, sir, we need to do a lot more work to regenerate the north of town, especially from an economic point of view and for the young people in youth facilities.
Supplemental question, Conor?
Yes, please, sir. I'm delighted to hear the enthusiasm of the Deputy Chief Minister, and I hope he'll convey that to the Chief Minister. The Deputy Chief Minister will be aware that there are other uses that have been talked about for the Jersey Gas site, and does he not agree with me that doubling the size of the Millennium Town Park in terms of the future of St Helier and the island is a far greater use than anything else that could be dreamed up to place on that site?
I think it's hard to challenge the fact that increasing green space in heavily built up areas is not the best use of that particular land, sir. So I would agree with him, and unless some spectacular idea or something we haven't thought about comes along, I refer to my previous answer. So I think it's terribly important we rejuvenate that part of town, sir, as previously described.
Well, Deputy Doublet.
Thank you, sir. Does the Deputy Chief Minister agree with me that in terms of COM priorities, the legislation to support same-sex parents in having parental responsibility on the same footing as any other parent should continue to be of the utmost priority, so that these parents and indeed their children are no longer subject to discrimination in this area?
In short, yes, I would concur that it's important, so must remain a priority for this and any future government.
Supplementary question? Yes, indeed, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister ensure could the Deputy Chief Minister please commit to following up with the relevant ministers that have responsibility for this area to ensure that that priority level is communicated to them and that this legislation is seen through before the end of this political term, please?
Yes, I will certainly make inquiries with the relevant ministers, although I can't commit to it being dealt with this term until I have that information, sir, but I will keep the Deputy informed.
Very well. Conor Harbison, Peter.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister agree that residents whose water remains polluted as a result of chemical pollution by the airport several decades ago should not be financially worse off as a result of having to be connected to the mains water supply?
Yes, sir. In short, absolutely, I do. I believe the state and the government and the ports of Jersey, sir, have a moral responsibility and indeed carry a moral liability to ensure that the status quo can be maintained for people who were affected by the pollution of their land and their water supply. I think the government would not be acting responsibly were it not to follow that up. So in short, yes, I believe we should. The Constable and members will know that this is still a great cause of concern for many residents of the area, and the states have organised a blood test and further support so we can ascertain the impact of the pollution, sir, on people's health and act accordingly. Thank you.
Very much. Supplemental question, Conor.
Thank you, sir. Is it acceptable that there has been no resolution of this matter, given that it started back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that it is very clear that the states of Jersey had accepted full responsibility at the time?
Well, I'm trying to cast my mind back, sir, to my spell on the Harbours and Airports Committee probably 15 years ago now, sir, and the solutions that were fine then. But since then, the actions out of those, the decisions made in those days seem to have been inconsistent, where I understand that compensation in the way of free water supply was provided, but that has been inconsistent. And I think we need to put this back onto a consistent footing to ensure that those people affected are no worse off, sir, than they were before we became aware of the pollution, sir, all those years ago.
Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the cost of building materials has risen at an alarming rate. Is the Minister still confident that our new hospital can be delivered on budget? Thank you, sir.
At this stage, sir, and based on the advice we're getting from our hospital team and the design and delivery partners, yes, I am still confident it can be delivered on time, but I would reiterate, sir, that depends on a number of issues. The most important, well, the first one being the successful rezoning in the Bridging Island plan of the area, which will facilitate then hopefully a successful determination on the planning application and no further delays after that, sir. The longer we leave it, or the more delays come in, then the higher the risk is, not only from the increase in the cost of building supplies and other commodities that will be used to build the hospital and provide the technology and equipment required, but also in the threat to the rising interest rates, sir, and the security of the bond, which cannot be confirmed, sir, until planning permission is received. Thank you.
Very much. Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, so taking into account these huge increases in all building cost indices, can the Minister indicate what impact this has had on the original budget?
Well, sir, the Deputy will remember that in the figure of £804 million, there was a considerable amount set aside for contingencies. At the start of the project, we were hopeful that not a lot of those contingencies would be used. As we've moved on through through and out of the other side of Brexit and COVID, it seems that we will be eating much more into those contingencies, so with raising prices. But right now, sir, the indications are that we can still deliver on time and within budget if we get on with it. Thank you.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. I noted that yesterday the Chief Minister of Guernsey visited the island for conversations with the Chief Minister, who would have been absent, I assume, yesterday as well. Would the Deputy Chief Minister please advise the Assembly as to what was discussed and how those talks went?
Yes, thanks, sir. First of all, I can confirm the Chief Minister attended via Teams at the meeting, and we're very pleased to welcome Deputy Fairbrush Guernsey's Chief Minister and Deputy Mark Elliott, as well the Minister for Treasury, to Jersey to discuss a number of issues, but the talks did focus on the future and ensuring the sustainable, reliable future for our important sea links. Members will remember that Guernsey announced they were, through one of their infrastructure funds, going to be purchasing a ferry and leasing it back to Condor. Since that announcement was made, officers have been working so we can understand the position they're in. So we also talked about future possibilities of how we might work together as the Channel Islands, because there is no doubt that if we work together as the Channel Islands on our sea links, we can deliver much more viable and sustainable links for islanders moving forward. It's especially important that we work towards improving and getting back to a return of much more consistent air and sea links. The current, we also discussed Jersey's current operating agreement with Condor, which is due to expire in 2025, which means we have to either give notice of that pretty early this year as part of the process and how we move forward, sir. And we agreed in principle that we would work closely on that, sir. I would very much hope Guernsey and Jersey could be part of a joint or similar operating agreements in the future, which will give us better control over our sea links. So sorry, that was a bit of a long answer, but I tried to encapsulate it as quickly as possible.
Well, it was just about within the time permitted, Mr. And that actually brings time for questions to this Minister to an end. And there is nothing under J and K, so we come on to public business. And the first item of public business is the draft children and young persons Jersey law at P107, lodged by the Minister for Children and Education. The main responder will be Deputy Ward of the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel. And I ask the greffier to read the citation.
Draft Children and Young People Jersey Law 2000, a law to make provision to promote and support the well-being and safeguard the welfare of children and young people and for connected purposes. The State, subject to the sanction of Her Most Excellent Majesty and Council, have adopted the following law.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the 2017 Independent Jersey Care Inquiry found that as a government, we had historically fallen short in respect of the childcare system in Jersey. Most critically, the fundamental failings identified included a failure to have in place an adequate legislative framework that prioritises the welfare of children in need or children at risk. Failure to keep pace with developments in social policy, childcare practice and social work standards in the developed world. Failure to plan and deliver services in an effective, targeted manner to achieve positive, measurable outcomes for children. And failure to the states of Jersey to understand and fulfil corporate parenting responsibilities, including adequate aftercare of children who have been looked after by the state. In response, one of the Assembly's firm commitments approved in subsequent government plans was to update our legislative framework in respect of children. The draft Children and Young People's Jersey Law represents a very significant update to the existing children's legislative framework. Not only will it help to ensure we continue to move forward and address the failings of the past, particularly in respect of the most vulnerable children. It is a law that aspires to support and improve the well-being of all children and young people in Jersey and meets the more contemporary concerns regarding early intervention and early help. The draft law, if passed, will be underpinned by training and statutory guidance. To allow time for that to be rolled out, we propose that it will be enacted through an appointed day act in early 2023. A central feature of this law is the concept of well-being, which is defined and identified as an outcome that can indicate a breadth of influences on children's everyday lives. Rather than just preventing harm, which is very important in itself, the draft law underpins the aspiration to promote the well-being of all children in Jersey. In summary, sir, I believe that the draft Children and Young People Jersey law lays the foundation to deliver high quality support and services to children and young people where and when they are needed. This law represents a significant step forward in meeting the commitment that we made as a government and as an assembly to put children first. Sir, I'd like to thank comments made by PPC, by the Children's Commissioner, and the amazing work that's happened with our scrutiny panel, this has been a long journey to get where we are today, and the work that everyone's helped put together with the officers has been amazing. Sir, I propose in first reading.
Are the principles seconded?
Yes, sir.
Does any member wish to speak on the principles? If no member wishes to speak, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. And I speak partly on behalf of the panel that scrutinised this piece of work. So I refer members to the scrutiny report that has been both made public, and I emailed to all members simply because I know the nuances of this piece of legislation. I start by saying that the panel does support this piece of legislation and would urge members to support it for a number of reasons. We received views from a number of stakeholders and raised several questions in respect of the law, and I'll just briefly talk on some of those. Some of the concerns that we've had, and I mention them, sir, so that we are clear as to the way forward with this piece of legislation. And I reiterate the point made by the Minister that this has developed over a number of years and a number of ministers, and it will be ongoing, the scrutiny of this piece of very important legislation. So one of the areas we mentioned are the need for statutory training and guidance, and the panel notes that the legislation creates a statutory duty for the Minister to publish guidance in relation to the responsibilities of all professionals working with children and young people. That statutory word is very important. But there is no duty on government to provide training included in the draft law, although this will need to be undertaken. And we do raise concerns that training has often been cut in the past, and any training will need to be meaningful and not a tick box exercise. A concern raised by the Children's Commissioner over the impact of further regulations on the third sector. The government must support the third sector in relation to guidance and training if they expect them to deliver under this new legal framework. So we also note the responsibility under the draft law for corporate parenting, and the panel would suggest that the Minister for Treasury and Resources is added to the list of ministers responsible for this. In terms, that's the Children's and Education Minister, the Minister of Health and Social Services, and Minister of Home Affairs and Housing and Communities, because of the possible need for funding for that implementation of that important area. We're pleased to note that the duty to plan in respect of the well-being and the plan for relevant providers of care and relevant providers for children. Some initial conversations we had with we have a concern. It's very difficult to word this carefully. I want to word it carefully, that the voice of the child is being heard in this, because it's such an important part of the discussion. And I think there is a requirement, just as this piece of legislation developed over time, there is a real requirement for long-term leadership into the future. And we cannot consider that as an assembly, if and hopefully when we vote for this piece of legislation, that's it, that it's complete now. There will be long-term leadership needed by future ministers and future scrutiny from panels to see the implementation of these laws and how they work, and possible amendments to improve these laws in the long term. And it's about a commitment to a long-term change of culture that if it doesn't happen, there is a real risk that this is a policy initiative to improve the well-being of children. One of the things is the voice of the child, as I was mentioning. The draft law does include rights-based language. However, the panel would agree with the Children's Commissioner that the term looked after children should be reviewed. It is something that children in care have stated that they do not wish to be called. And it's those small nuances, I think, that are very important for us when we look at this law. We're pleased to see that a child's rights impact assessment has been undertaken for this piece of legislation. I think they're important for all pieces of legislation. And although we welcome the law, I caution again that this is the first step in a legislative journey, and further regulations and statutory guidance will need to be developed should this be adopted by the States Assembly. And it is vital that succession happens in terms of both scrutiny and the Minister, and certainly in the legacy report from our panel, we will be reporting on that and urging that. And so I would say that the risk of implementation of this legislative framework is an area that I want to finish with in highlighting. While assurances have been given this will be managed through training, the panel would state that any training must be meaningful, accessible, and truly engage staff and professionals so that they have a full understanding of what is being asked of them. The process must be resourced effectively to ensure the training reaches all those that are required to undertake it. And we would echo the point raised by the Children's Minister that the first sector must be supported by government during this process so that services do not fall under the burden of additional regulation without additional support. If the regulation is right, it will be supported. We will continue to monitor the implementation of the draft law during its remaining time in office and ensure that the point is raised in our legacy report. And so I'll finish by simply saying this is a significant day, I think, for this Assembly, and the culmination of a huge amount of work by officers and briefings to the panel. And I'm pleased that the Minister mentioned the work of the panel, because we have tried to be extremely constructive in our scrutiny. And this piece of law may not be perfect, but it is a huge step forward for this island. It is a huge step forward in response to what we saw in the care inquiry. And I would urge members to support this piece of law. And if there are issues with it, then please be involved in the future, if you're in this Assembly, to support and build this piece of legislation. But so with that, I would urge members to vote for the principles.
Much indeed. Colin Tarbison, Peter.
Thank you, sir. I would like to say a few words in support of the draft Children and Young People Jersey law. Firstly, I am fully behind the principle in the draft law of providing early help for children and young people. The evidence shows that where families can be supported, early problems or issues are more likely to be nipped in the bud, with better outcomes for the children. I believe this law will provide a consistent policy framework from which to build and improve practice. A good example of services that provide early help and support are our parish youth projects. These are provided to all young people, but now they provide targeted activities and support for children who have greater levels of need. St Peter has a long tradition of supporting its community, including the provision of a youth and community centre, and we have an active youth project. Having held a number of voluntary positions in the parish before I was elected constable, including 8 years as chef de police, I am also very aware of the many issues affecting our young people. A significant proportion of the children and young people coming through the parish hall system have experienced adverse circumstances in their lives. And sadly, I still see this day as constable. and am aware of circumstances such as these in the parish. I firmly believe that as well as responding to the initial reported offence, as a government, we also need to understand and take steps to respond supportively to children's underlying needs, which may not be immediately apparent. This approach is reflected in the draft law, which means in practice a probation officer's assessment of a child or care leaver carried out in connection with a parish hall inquiry should be taken into account in a well-being assessment and will form the basis for services to work together around the child. We also know that as an island we need to do more to support children and young people in care and leaving care more effectively. There is unfortunately a lot of evidence that shows that outcomes for children in care and care leavers are generally very poor when compared with children in the general population. When a child or young person comes into the minister's care, the government becomes their corporate parent, and this should continue as they leave care and transition into adulthood. A key element of improved support for children in care and care leavers in the draft law is through the formal establishment of corporate parenting responsibilities, which will be applied to named corporate parents. I am pleased to see that parishes have been included in the named list. This reflects the continued importance of the parish in the social organisation and government of Jersey. Going forward, training and guidance will assist corporate parents to fulfil their duties and assist us in translating the duties into real actions, and can make a real difference for young people and empower them to become active and positive part of the community. The publication of the final report of the Independent Care Inquiry represented a wake-up call to elected members to act differently in order to avoid recreating the failures of the past. I believe the draft law presents a great opportunity to follow up on the Jersey Care Inquiry findings and recommendations, and provides a robust legal basis to support children and young people in Jersey, particularly our most vulnerable, and I hope all members will support it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Kaitab. Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. I'm very pleased to be speaking in support of this draft law, and I congratulate the Minister for Children and Education for bringing it to the Assembly, and I echo the words that he spoke in support of those who've worked so hard to get us to this point and to have this draft law written and in front of us to make a decision on today. Many of those were people who I worked closely with in my time as Minister for Children, who I know firsthand how committed they are to seeing Jersey follow the journey it needs to following the publication of the Jersey Care Inquiry report, a journey which has been at times very difficult and has at times faced setbacks. But it is important that we don't forget why we're here and what it was in that Care Inquiry report that has led to us being here. And whilst, of course, the great focus of that report quite rightly was on some of the horrific things which happened in Jersey's past and the legacy of which still exists to this day, that there was much talk in that report about some of the cultural issues that Jersey suffered from, particularly within our public administration, where the rights of children were simply not considered in an appropriate way. In some instances, there being overt objection to fulfilling children's rights and considering children a nuisance in some of these public services, and some of that was underpinned by the laws which previously existed. And so Jersey definitely does need a new children and young people's law. And just to use one example to illustrate the point I'm making here, in the previous children's law, there is actually a reference to it, a reference in it to what they call illegitimate children. I guess we kind of know what that phrase is alluding to, but isn't it a horrible phrase? And doesn't it say a lot about attitudes to children, them in some instances not being considered legitimate, not being considered special, and not being treated equally? Some of those cultural issues were enshrined in that old law and must be gotten rid of if we're to move forward. And one of the things I'm pleased to see in this draft law is a stronger framework for corporate parenting, better than that which preceded it. And it's important that that's included in this law and is strengthened, because it will provide a better foundation than the old law does. But I think it's worth making the point, though, that there is still a lot more to consider on corporate parenting than can ever be put in words on a piece of paper. It may well be the case that this law will provide for certain duties to certain office holders to safeguard the interests of children, but corporate parenting is actually more about what you feel in your heart rather than what a law tells you you have to do. The point of corporate parenting is that those in positions of responsibility who encounter children as part of what they do ought to have the interests of children at the forefront of their mind and ought to treat those children with love and compassion, and ask the question, when services are being delivered for children, whether they would consider those services good enough for their own child, whether they would be happy for their children to be treated in that way, and if not, to strive to do better. And to understand the importance of that, that can't be legislated for, but to have a better legislative framework underpinning it certainly makes that cultural change easier to achieve. I support what the chairman of the Children Education Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel said about more to be done in the future, and how we do need to consider this law in future, how it can be enhanced, what potential changes we may wish to see in the future. One of the other pieces of work that I think needs to be considered alongside this draft law as part of that wider journey to implement the recommendations from the Care Inquiry report is on children's rights and enshrining those properly in Jersey law. Though we have signed up to the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child, we haven't enshrined it properly in Jersey law. My understanding for the plans for that are that they will seek to indirectly incorporate the UNCRC into Jersey law, and I, for one, support that as a step in the right direction, but I would prefer that actually we had a stated ambition to see the direct incorporation of the UNCRC into Jersey law, as we've done with the European Convention on Human Rights, and to do that would supplement what the Children and Young People's draft law seeks to do in helping us improve our culture in public administration so that children's rights are considered properly. And there are some good signs of those lessons being learned in this law, and the comments from the scrutiny panel and the Children's Commissioner as well do draw attention to that. And that is something certainly to be positive about. And so I simply wanted to frame the principal part of this debate on this draft law in the context of that wider journey we need to go on, learning the lessons from the independent Jersey Care Inquiry. But this law is a thoroughly good piece of work that takes us in an important step forward, and so I will be wholeheartedly supporting it.
Deputy St John.
Sir, as the Minister for Children and Education has said, and I agree, the draft Children and Young People's Jersey law, if passed, will be a great step forward in the promotion and protection of children's well-being in the island. Like many of you here in the Assembly today, I signed the pledge to put children first at the beginning of this term. Sir, passing this law will allow this Assembly to continue to demonstrate a public commitment to honour this pledge and place support for children's well-being on the firm footing it deserves, so that future generations are assured that we will continue to strive to give children the very best start in life, and that this society will nurture and shepherd the young of our island into adulthood. The key principle underpinning the draft law is an aspiration to support and improve the well-being of all children and young people in Jersey. This applies whatever their level of need might be and whatever setting they are in. In particular, I'm particularly pleased to see an emphasis on early help, which will ensure that many issues can be prevented from escalating because the right help at the right time is made available. This commitment is made in children's and families' best interests and ultimately in the best interests of our whole society. Sir, the other factor I would like to draw attention to is the deliberately broad definition attributed to well-being that is embedded in the draft law. This broad definition allows for consideration of socio-economic factors when determining the needs of and working with children and their families to improve outcomes. The draft law acknowledges that children's emotional well-being is just as important as physical health, and of course, one impacts on the other. So we're very much aware of the things that can help keep children and young people mentally well, including being in good physical health, eating a balanced diet and getting regular exercise, having time and freedom to play indoors and outdoors, being part of a family that gets along well most of the time, going to a school that looks after the well-being of all pupils, and taking part in community activities. Other factors are also important, including feeling loved, trusted, understood and safe. Good mental health helps children develop the resilience to cope with whatever life throws at them and grow into well-rounded, healthy and productive adults. Sir, in summary, I believe that the draft Children and Young People's Law lays the foundation to deliver high quality support and services to children and young people when they are needed. The intention of this draft law is to continue with the work we've done over this term to focus on children's mental health and well-being, as well as their physical health, and integrate service delivery as we move forward. So I would like to take this opportunity as both Assistant Minister for Children and Education and Assistant Minister for Health and Social Services to state clearly that this draft law underpins all that has been achieved so far in the term, and it constitutes a big step forward on the path toward modernising the legislative landscape for children, young people in Jersey. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Deputy St John. Senator Valwa.
Yes, thank you, sir. And as others have stated, I'm fully supportive of the legislation that is being brought forward before us today. I think it marks a really instrumental point in time as a first phase of the legislation around our children in Jersey, considering what we have seen and experienced in the past. So the scrutiny panel have produce comments, as the chair mentioned, and as they are comments, there's not usually recommendations that go alongside the comments that we make on the legislation, but there are three key points that I'd like to make to the Minister and see whether he would consider committing to any of those points to bring forward. And I think it's really important to emphasise the fact that we are now enshrining corporate parenting in legislation. And corporate parenting isn't just a commitment or a duty of the said responsible ministers under this legislation. So corporate parenting will be a responsibility for all who are required to make decisions. And we welcome the PPC comments. And in particular, in that vein, I would ask the Minister to consider, and maybe in any Councillor Minister's legacy report, if they do, to ensure that there is a commitment or a written commitment made as such as PPC States Assembly, but to do so on behalf of the Government of Jersey by both the Councillor Ministers and the senior management team, around how they will be incorporating corporate parenting into their daily decision making on a daily basis. Secondly, sir, I would mention that the Appointed Day Act will not be forthcoming until 2023, and as the Minister referred to, this is very much due to a training that will be taking place. I would ask the Minister, considering what we have heard in scrutiny hearings over the past year and through our briefings, there is concern that this lays a great burden, well, not a burden, but a great legal duty upon the Minister in terms of absolutely right to put in place the provision and care that children who are in our care rightly need. And so, therefore, I would ask that the Minister and officers consider the consequential effect that this law will have on other legislation. And if I just give an example, because this is one example that came out in one of our quarterly hearings, was with regards to the income support law and how it's not sufficient in terms of support in circumstances such as an experience that a student, a care leaver experienced with ourselves, having going to university, and there wasn't sufficient discretion in place within the department, and there were some concerns around how financial support may be provided. And this is partly the reason why we referred to the potential need for the Treasury Minister maybe need to be included as a responsible minister. But we would also suggest that as the year moves on, as the next 2 years go forward, that consideration is given to the consequential effect of this legislation on other legislation, whether that's income tax, whether it's income support. I'm sure there's many other pieces of legislation that I can refer to, but I would ask the Minister to consider that. And finally, sir, in terms of statutory guidance that sits under this, and what's important about the voice of the child is ensuring that any statutory guidance that we put in place and the training that's provided to those who will be supporting our children and young people is that the voice is at the centre of that statutory guidance, and whether the Minister would consider our Jersey Youth Parliament, or whether he would consider a group or a task force of students who may consider looking and scrutinising at the guidance in advance of the training commencing, so that there is a shared language amongst our children and young people and the people that are providing the support, so that we make sure that the outcomes are the best that we possibly can provide for our children and our future people or public of Jersey. So on that basis, I'm very grateful to the Minister and the officers for bringing this legislation forward. I hope that the scrutiny comments have been helpful to all members, and I would ask everybody to support this legislation moving forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Senator, is the adjournment proposed?
I propose the adjournment. Thank you.
Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15.